What's going on, guys? Chris here again with another Four Knights of the Apocalypse chapter review. And I have to say, while this one is not as bombastic in the action department as the last couple of chapters have been, this actually gets some theory juices flowing and also continues to beat us over the head with the idea of who Sin actually is, and even sets up them crossing the mountain as an actual full-length arc, presumably roughly the same length as maybe the Kant arc, or maybe the Sistana arc, if, recent arcs have been to the same exact amount of length for the most part. Now, the one thing I have to say is that that there are people that are a little frustrated or just a little annoyed that we're 32 chapters in, and we have not, and I repeat not, have gotten another member of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse on the main cast yet. And I will get into why I think that might not exactly be the case involving Sin as we go later down the road in this video, because I'm going to say speculations and stuff towards the end after I go over the chapter. But this chapter really gets a lot of things set up, as well as continues the whole who is Sin discussion in a very nice way, and I'll get into why a particular scene that I'll be talking about in this chapter is very important. But for now, we're going to end up talking about this exact chapter. Before that, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so it can say all, so you get notified for future videos. It really helps, and this channel is, again, really close to 800 subscribers, and I really, really want to get up to 1,000 subscribers. We are really close to reaching that goal, and these Four Knights videos are doing very well on the channel, all things considered. Within a week, these videos cross nearly 500 views almost consecutively, and sometimes even go beyond that, and it's just something that I'm just very happy and proud of, that people are actually enjoying the videos that I'm making and just enjoying my content. So I'm going to continue to be more proactive with these reviews, maybe even start doing more Four Knights of the Apocalypse theory videos in the future, or maybe just discussions in general, as well. It's basically the main series on my channel that's actually getting me all the views and subs at the moment. I mean, obviously older videos are contributing, but this is the most popular series of videos on my channel, so I really do want this series to continue going, and I want to keep covering it weekly every chance I get. And before everything else, don't forget to check out my Patreon for specific perks, whether it be the patron-only Discord server, special poll access, helping me decide on what videos to make, requesting specific anime and manga you'd like me to talk about, so on and so forth. And also a Ko-fi account, which, as of right now, I'm not using too often, but if you really want to help this channel, leave a couple of tips. It'll really help me get these videos out sooner, as these videos do cost money, as I am hiring an editor or two to help with these videos. So I'd rather, make it worth their while to help with these videos so they can be the best that they can be. And with all that said and out of the way, let's get into the video. So last week we got the conclusion of the fight again with Hauser showing off his full power against the ancient dragon that was said to live in the mountain ranges. After that concludes, everyone reconvenes, and Percival obtains the dragon blade once more, the dragon handle that is a part of the Coffin of Eternal Darkness. But this time, Hauser uses the blacksmithing knowledge that he got due to the fact that his father was a blacksmith, and manages to craft Percival's very own sword onto the dragon handle. Basically, physically embodying that Percival is carrying on the torch and legacy of the 7 deadly sins of Meliodas. Visually, and I like it. It's a true passing of the baton, and I mentioned this in the last video. And in the last chapter also ended with a bizarre looking bird hovering over them, presumably monitoring them. And that's where we get into this next chapter, chapter 32, The Peaks of Fear. And I have to say, for the first page, we get a very nice scale of how wide this mountain range is in comparison to the rest of the cast. Everyone is getting presumably exhausted by climbing, Donnie trying to play it off as everyone needing to get more exercise, and that it isn't exactly a bit easier, but he's still playing it off like it's not that big of a deal. And and Sin says that they will reach camp. They will set up camp just before the peak so they can all rest. And as Nazians looks over, completely exhausted, as remember, he is still a he mostly doesn't have much stamina. He's basically a frail kid in comparison to Donnie and Percival and even Anne, who have basically gone through intense training. Donnie and Percival, respectively, have been more, most likely. Percival is on a league of his own, but yeah. We look over, and it seems that Percival is still in high spirits and in good shape, as he is practicing with his sword and is acting like a holy knight of justice. Practicing his sword moves, and even putting it back in the handle on his back to sheathe the sword like an actual knight would, and in the exact same position that Meliodas is. I mean, sometimes I swear, I feel like Suzuki is literally trying to say, hey, remember Meliodas? Well, this kid is a more energetic version of him. Just imagine Meliodas as a kid. And if he wasn't had all that responsibility of being a Demon King's son and started killing a bunch of people. Alright, but anyway. Back to the chapter. I like how everyone is mentioning that Hauser really inspired Percival to be a holy knight. And I'm really, really hoping we get a nice training arc once we reach Leonis, with them basically training with Hauser, presumably. And maybe even Gil Thunder or maybe Meliodas himself will help train Percival. And I said this last week, but it would be really awesome if Percival learned full counter, revenge counter, and counter vanish from Meliodas, now that he has a dragon sword and it works. But it makes more sense for Tristan, Meliodas' son, to have learned all these techniques. While it would be nice for both of them in having two separate characters with the exact same technique, statistically would make a better pair, it's something interesting to look forward to. Anyway, we fast forward to nighttime, everyone's getting ready to go to sleep, and Sin actually says that basically there are a bunch of rumors and no one knows the truth about everything that goes on here on the Dalflare ranges, as it was stated to be like a dark region, and everyone's questioning whether or not Sin was lying or if he was just exaggerating. And with this, Sin begins to explain everything that he's heard about this range, the mountain range. That it's also known as the Peaks of Fear, and there are several stories about it, but they're more like rumors, and no one really knows the whole truth. And one of these stories is the Mirages, stating that supposedly the peaks could have spiritual powers to conjure up strange events, like seeing your future self, or meeting a lover you'll have later in life. And even Nazian points out it sounds more romantic than scary, and I like how Percival just straight up says that his grandpa said that girls like these types of stories, and Anne obviously says she wants to see herself as a holy knight. Sin continues on to say that there's a tale of a village of man-eating ogres who trick unwary travelers, or a dimensional cave that they can never escape from. Anyway, as Nazians and An are very concerned about these rumors, they tell everyone to go. Sin tells everyone to go to sleep, and as they're a little, freaked out over what's going on and what they were just told, they're finding it a little hard to sleep. But when Percival brings up that they should talk about something fun to lighten up the mood before going to bed, he brings up the topic of naming his sword in finisher moves, and everyone's just like, okay, time to get some sleep, as everyone just goes to sleep thinking that that's not the time for this, and they just feel like, and Percival literally just lifted the mood like that, so that's kind of hilarious. Anyway, we fast forward to later in the midnight, as Sin twitches, presumably like someone is calling to him. He goes a little farther out from the group, and he begins to see a woman in a dress supposedly staring him down and calling him. After asking who this lady is, we see panels noting that she is saying something, and it turns out this woman is stating Sin's real name, as Sin is literally in like a murderous look at her, stating, "How you know my name?" And we see this woman's full look, and then we fast forward to Sin waking up and sneezing, seemingly like this was a dream, or that the lady disappeared and he went back to bed, only to tell everyone in the morning. and wondering if anybody else saw something like that, and it was all in their dreams. They were all having a bunch of different dreams and stuff like that. And Sin, thinking back, realized that this was a bride. And this, I'm going to get back to this a little bit later, but for all we know, Sin was seeing his future, someone he's going to meet in the future. And if this ends up being a very important character for Sin to end up with, even if it's realized that he is really human, which everyone is, speculating, then that is something that I'm looking forward to seeing. As the group continues to go up to the mountain, we see a type of hiker looking down on them from the ridge, and I like how Nazians is literally beginning to get insanely exhausted even more. And as Sin states that they are very close, they reach the top of the peak, and then when they're like, is this going to be Leonis? We made it? And then they see a giant ass mountain range, as they're all incredibly disappointed, stating that Sin was a liar, even though he said that this was a actual mountain range, and that the full trip is going to be 4 whole days. They're going to have to do this for 4 whole days in order to finally reach Leonis. As they're all incredibly surprised and disappointed, Nazian states that because of how he is and how he continuously gets tired compared to the rest of the others, they might end up doubling that by another 4 days, so they probably take about a week if they have to wait on Nazians. And Percival, being the best friend ever, and actually making Nazians blush a little bit, states that he'll just give Nazians a piggyback ride. As we've all stated, Percival's got a boundless amount of energy, so I honestly I'm gonna find that hilarious when we see it. As Sin is stating for everyone to go, he notices this little bird from last chapter hovering above them. And as everyone continues to move on, we pass a nice branched forest, and as Percival goes on ahead, he states something very important. He's gotta take a whiz. And Donnie, being all serious, says he has to go too. And I like how they just start to take a whiz on the side of the road. Oh man, that's just hilarious. And then Donnie and Percival notice something, calling everyone over, and that it is a village just beyond those branches, those dead trees. And when they see a bunch of villagers waving at them, being all friendly and smiling. Nazians and An say it's weird and creepy, and Sin even says that he senses an odd magic force right across from it. And being Percival and Donnie, they are a bit oblivious to what's going on, and they're like, a village is a village. But then, the hiker that we saw previously starts running up to him and stating what the hell you're doing, and that they can't go over there. And the village is dangerous. As Sin, literally shocked and concerned, looks over and notices that Donnie and Percival are starting to head towards the village, running like a bunch of idiots. And I like this next panel, as Percival is just like, he's going to have a bunch of fun there, and Donnie just wants to have a bunch of ale. Sin rushes over to them, stating how much trouble they're in. And as we see them crossing, we notice little ripples in where they're crossing from these little stones, if you pay close enough attention. And Sin manages to cross over along with them. And as An and Nazians are getting ready to go after them, the mountain man states that they shouldn't go in there, and they'll be stuck. And that village is no village at all, and that it's a den of monsters. With the last panel looking at a close-up of all the villagers with vacant black eyes, and in the back someone that might be a wizard of some sort. And that's how the chapter ends. And yeah, while this chapter didn't have any action, this really does do well for setting up this next arc, and I am all too excited to find out what is going to happen next. Now to get back to the middle of the chapter with Sin's little vision of the bride. This could actually tie into why he is secretly Lancelot. Now, in all honesty, one thing has been clear. Why is Sin only bringing Percival? Shouldn't he be looking for all of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse and bringing them all together? There are a multitude of reasons why he's not doing that and only taking Percival. One, Percival was the easiest one for him to find, and he figured it'd be better since they were close enough to Leonis to bring him. Another is that all the other 4 Knights are already in Leonis, being kept safe by Meliodas and Elizabeth. The third option is primarily, well, for one, Tristan is basically one of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse, and he is in Leonis. presumably with the final night, which we have no idea who their identity is. Leaving the idea that Sin might actually be Lancelot and is using his fairy powers to actually transform into an animal, which could play into the fact that he has a type of, that one of the four knights has no set appearance, and since fairies can't transform into humans, it's very possible that Lancelot turned into the form of a fox instead, making it easier for him to sneak around, which would be something very interesting, and also taking the form of a fox would be a way to honor his father Bon. But the thing is, in Arthurian legend, there is something that goes on with Lancelot with a bride. And one thing, if you remember, King Arthur gave Ironside an important task, which was to find him his bride, to find Arthur a bride. And a whole arc later, Sin imagines a bride. Now, if Sin is indeed Lancelot, then this could tie into Arthurian legend, where Lancelot ends up like falling in love and, you know, having an affair of some sorts with Arthur's wife, which end up causing conflict, which obviously Leonis and Camelot are in fact in a major conflict and war right now, but this would basically make this even more heated, as Arthur most likely views getting a wife to be a bit more important than his goals at the moment. This could tie into his plans, but we still have no idea what he's really after. So this bride could in fact be Lancelot's future love, and being the idea that his real name is still being teased to us, I still think Sin is in fact Lancelot. Now if this is proven wrong, then I'm a big dumb idiot. But this is basically a large consensus within the wider fan base, and while very obvious, Nakaba seems to be kind of milking it a bit, and from what I can tell, this is going to be the arc where we figure out Sin's true identity, and if it's Lancelot, I'll be all the more happy. If it's not, and it's someone else, then okay, it would probably be a pretty good reveal regardless. But yeah, we ended this chapter off seemingly in a realm of monsters, a village filled with monsters. And my thing could be, it could be one of Arthur's knights stationed there to make sure that Percival does not cross into Leonis and is using one of the Chaos Staves that we saw back in the Echo Gorge arc, where we introduced the Nazians, where that thing has chaos power and can chaosify a bunch of different people with that stored power of chaos. So all those villagers could actually be chaos creatures that this knight, or perhaps wizard if anything, is controlling to lure in travelers, and presumably Holy Knights of Leonis, who are trying to return back to Leonis after going off to fight Arthur's goons or going on missions outside of the borders of Leonis. And yeah, those are my theories. The bride that we saw could be Sin or Lancelot's, if Sin turns out to be Lancelot's future love interest, and also potentially love interest for Arthur if Suzuki goes full on with the Arthurian legend stuff, as well as the fact that this could be the arc where Sin finally reveals his true identity, and hopefully is Lancelot, one of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, showing that we have been actually with half of the core cast this entire time, leaving Tristan in Leonis, and the fourth and final member yet to be revealed to us, presumably in Leonis or in a future arc. And this whole idea of like maybe a chaosified village to stop Holy Knights returning to Leonis and them being changed to capture Percival and the other four knights as they cross over is a really cool idea, and if that's true, I will be all for it. But yeah, a really great chapter, and I really hope a lot of these predictions are true. We won't find out until whatever's going on with the village until next week, and since True Identity, probably another couple of weeks or chapters down the road, probably at the climax of this arc. But yeah, with all that said and done, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe once more, hit the notification bell for updates on future videos, and leave your comments down below on your thoughts about Sin, and if he's Lancelot or not, if my predictions could be true, and what you think this arc is going to accomplish for setting up the future of the series. And one last thing before we go. Like I said before, I know a lot of people are a little upset that since the main cast is supposed to be 4 characters, the core main cast is supposed to be the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, just remember, it took almost 200 chapters, roughly 30 episodes, for us to get all 7 sins together. And even then, all sins weren't 100% together in the same place until Season 3, until they go off to free Camelot from Zeldris and stuff like that. So yeah, all 7 sins weren't officially together until Season 2, and then it wasn't until Season 3 and Season 4 where we would end up getting all the sins put together at once. But yeah, that's all I gotta say for this week's chapter review. Another good chapter, really sets up a lot of things, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you enjoyed the chapter. With all that said and done, I hope you guys enjoy yourselves and have an awesome day. What's up guys, Chris here again with another 4 Knights of the Apocalypse manga chapter review. And I have to say, this was another very interesting chapter. Back-to-back interesting chapters that continue to pile on the fact that this will most likely be the arc where we get Sin's true identity revealed. And if you haven't been following me as of recently, I really hope that Sin is actually Lancelot, the son of Bon and Elaine, as there are a lot of things that do play into Sin being Lancelot, and it just makes a whole lot of sense. But yeah, that's really all I really need to say in the subject. This chapter was really good, setting up potential new threats, and this current arc, which is most likely is definitely an arc, is really setting a lot of things up, and even alluding to what could potentially be happening right now between Leonis and Camelot specifically. But before we get into this actual chapter, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps. These 4 Knights of the Apocalypse videos are doing very well, though as of recently, not all of them are doing as insanely well as they normally would, but that's all just here and there. They're still doing very good. They're still the most popular series of videos that I am continuously doing on this channel, so I really love and appreciate you guys for making this stuff possible, and I will continue to give you 4 Knights of the Apocalypse content as we move on. Also, don't forget to check out my Patreon account where you can help fund these videos, donate to the channel so I can get more videos out that aren't just my chapter reviews. That way you guys can see a bit more of me and my thoughts on all things anime and manga. And the tiers and rewards are pretty good, especially for someone who is yet to reach 1,000 subscribers, which we are over the 800 subscriber mark. So just 200 more and we'll reach that sweet 1K. So please subscribe to the channel and recommend this channel to all your friends. Also, I also have a Coffee account as well. If you want to donate to the channel as well without the added benefit of Patreon, if you just want to directly see me make these videos as quickly as possible, Coffee also helps as well. But without further ado, let's get right into the chapter. Chapter 33, The Evil Feast. And this takes place directly after last chapter, where the whole gang were climbing up one of the peaks of the mountain range in order to reach Leonis. And over one of those mountain ranges, they notice a village in the corner beyond a bunch of trees. Percival and Donnie rush towards them as they believe the town will have food and stuff there, and just all around good times. Sin ends up going in to try and stop them and pull them back as a mountain man comes out and tries to tell them not to go near that village, saying that it's a den of monsters. And the chapter ends ominously with the villagers looking very monstrous and demonic in nature. And that's where this chapter picks off. Percival and Donnie look and wave hello to all the villagers, who are grinning and smiling at them so happily. Percival introduces himself and states that they're going off to Leonis, and you can tell just by the way these villagers are drawn and with how their smirks and body language are, this is very creepy. So yeah, I can't wait to see this stuff animated. But it also shows just how do I put this? How Donnie and Percival can't pick up on things directly, and they are kind of trusting people, especially Percival. So this really helps a lot. So Donnie asks the obvious, is there a tavern? Meanwhile, we actually meet the village elder from the looks of it, and you can tell this guy is like monstrous or demonic or something because of the text box. He says that they're able to brew beer and they don't have a tavern, as we do get a full page dedicating us to this creature. I'm saying creature because with how he's designed, he's obviously not human, and that staff he's holding, my theory is that is most likely a staff of chaos, and this might be one of Arthur's knights, or maybe a chaos being that was created by Arthur with sentient intelligence, and it's just doing stuff on its own. I don't know, but I can't wait to find out. We get back to Nazianz and Anne as they're talking to the hunter, the mountain man. He is actually a hunter, saying that he patrols this area of the mountain range to make sure no travelers go into that village. And as Nazian is asking why it's called a den of demons, a den of monsters, even despite how spooky it is, the mountain man, the hunter, states that it really is. It literally is a den of monsters, stating that there was never a village here on the mountain range before, but it just somehow appeared 10 or so years ago. So this does fit into the time frame between the end of the Seven Deadly Sins and the very start of the series, as overall it's about 16 years. So you have to wonder when this took place, and if it's 10 years, then it's probably at some point after Tristan and Lancelot are in fact born. The hunter continues to state that they look like people, but he's not joking, and that he saw with his own eyes. The moment one of the people left the village, it transformed to some kind of monster. And I'm liking this representation, as we're not getting what exactly this thing looks like. It just looks like spooky and a little grotesque, like a blob or something. But it is very reminiscent of some type of monster. So this could further improve the theory that this is a den of chaos creatures with some sort of sentient intelligence. But that's just my theory, and I think anyone reading this chapter are probably picking up on the hints. And if that is the case, I honestly wouldn't mind it, as chaos is a very prominent role in this sequel series. So if there's more chaos creatures around than we initially thought that aren't completely under Arthur's control, or are just spread out across Britannia, then that would make a lot of sense. The hunter continues to say that any travelers that go near it are never seen again. And Nazians realizes this is similar to what Sin told them about these rumors and stories about a village of man-eating ogres. The hunter pleads with them to stay away, but An states that they're going to go in. They're their friends, they're their companions, and the hunter has to let them go into the village and to tell them everything he knows. We got back into the village with Donnie being Donnie, getting himself drunk off of ale. And he asks what it is. It tastes very weird, but it still tastes very good. As the village elder states that it's called Under Ale. The villagers modeled it after Britannia's ale. And I'm liking how we keep getting them being super excited about this super friendly village, despite all these panels telling us, the readers, how creepy they all are. And Percival again, still very pure too pure for this world, as he is just like, they're all smiling, it just makes me want to smile also. Donnie's like, it's only you. But then Donnie does pick up on the very weird thing, and the fact that none of the villagers are talking, that they're very quiet. The elder says that they cannot speak the Britannian tongue, and if that is going to be a problem. And I like Percival's answer there, stating that they don't need language, and that if they can read each other's hearts, they can still be friends. That is a very shonen protagonist and idealistic way to look at things, and that is a very positive message to give to people. You might not be able to speak the same language or come from the same place, but if you can understand each other, you can be friends. I like that message. It's a very nice message, and Percival, being the one to say it, completely in character. I love it. As Donnie is complimenting him, we see that the elder stares at the dragon hilt, the piece of the Coffin of Eternal Darkness that Percival has, which is now his sword. And I like that little menacing look on his face. This further instates that there are a bunch of people out there that will go chase after Percival and everyone, as they have huge targets on their backs now that they have this piece of the coffin. But directly afterwards, we see that Sin, above one of the buildings, asks the old man who he is, and clearly states that he saw this bird following them back in camp, and deducing that this old man has been using it to follow them, as it has followed them back into town and has been circling them. So Sin asks him to tell him what's going on, and basically asks if they're after Percival, or the Coffin of Eternal Darkness, or both, which all of those are very, very good reasons to spy on someone. Percival being the member of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, and the Coffin of Eternal Darkness being, well, the Coffin of Eternal Darkness. Both very real reasons for people, especially those under Arthur's command, to try and take down these people and trap them. Donnie and Percival, still taken in by this whole illusion, basically say that Sin has to have fun here and not to be so mean and to stop worrying. The old man repeats the name Sin a few times, stating Sin the fox's name, Sin the fox, as he laughs, saying that he noticed something, and asks Sin if he would like to talk privately. And Sin, with a very serious and angry look, says sure. He jumps off the building, goes to the ground, and follows the elder, as the elder tells every villager to prepare food for them. We then cut to Donnie and Percival just filling their faces with a crap ton of food from the villagers, saying that they never ate and can't, and that this food does taste kind of weird. Again, very specific wording. The food and the ale taste very weird in this village. And we're going to get more into that as we go on, when Donnie asks for a refill. We see one of the villagers menacingly going through a corner, and we see what looks like a type of weird language that cannot be understood as they communicate to each other. This large bald man, sharpens his knife, licks it with a long monstrous tongue. We hear a weird noise. We see something on the table as he then chops something down and blood spurts all over his face. So, I have a really quick theory. So, you know how the legend says that they're man-eating ogres? And that it seems that this whole thing is some type of illusion or something? What if what Percival and Donnie are eating is actually human flesh that has been cooked and prepared by these monsters? Okay. Nakaba Suzuki, I get that Halloween is just around the corner, and I know you want this story to be a bit darker, or as dark as the Seven Deadly Sins, if not darker. But I really hope you're not going in the direction where our main lead literally just ate people. I really hope that's not the direction and shock value we're getting into. So, quick tangent away. That is it's very possible that just because maybe it's like fake food or something like that, or maybe it's all just an illusion or whatever, and maybe it's all just everything being misleading. That doesn't change the fact that this very specific set of panels heavily suggests that these villagers are cutting up and preparing people and baking them into food. And it's all just one big ass illusion. Okay, little rant speculation thing over with. Back to the chapter. We cut back to the old man, stating that he's done well to see who he really is. But enough about that, stating that he must be tired after his long journey. Please rest your weary bones here, as we see Sin unconscious on the ground, as the elder towering over him seems to have lit a fire and then possibly use some sort of sleeping spell on him to knock him out. Now, I honestly want to go with the fact that maybe Sin is immune to this for all intents and purposes, and maybe he's just playing, or maybe he's just playing possum so that he could see this guy's true form and whatever. But remember, Sin is a very perceptive guy. He's never truly tricked. He's always cautious and judgmental of others and wants to try and figure everything out. He keeps an eye out, and I like that. So I don't think he's been taken out so easily. He's very cautious. So it's very possible that he realized what was going on, and he's faking it, so he can see what exactly this old man is planning. Moving back to Nazians and on, they go over with the hunter basically what they're going to try and do. As we go over that there is a protective barrier around this village, and that just like what he said, when one of the villagers left the village, they transformed into a monster. This whole thing is keeping an illusion, a facade of what's going on inside, of what people can see inside or outside. The second you go out, the illusion is lifted. And he even mentions that the older guy, the elder, was angry at one of the monsters for leaving the town, and that the only way to actually be able to see who they truly are is to destroy their idol. This giant towering thing in the middle of the town, from what I can see, that if it's destroyed, it most likely will get rid of the entire illusion. Now, this is a very bizarre structure, and it's very obvious it might have something to do with Arthur's chaos powers, or it could just be some very powerful magical item. Maybe Merlin made it or something. I'm not entirely sure, but it's creating a very powerful and long-range illusion for people inside and outside. So the whole plan is that they manage to destroy their idol to lift this illusion, and in the ensuing confusion, they save Percival and Donnie and Sin and get the hell out of there. Now, the Mountain Man states that he will in fact divert the attention from the outside so that An and Nazien can go in and destroy the idol. But Nazien brings up something interesting about the hunter. His name is Ardo. I forgot to mention that his name was Ardo. Nazien asks why he's exposing himself to danger. Why is he so eager to help them? An notices that Nazien is suspicious, but Nazien says that he didn't really mean to be suspicious, as An reassures him, saying that Ardo hasn't stated any lies. And remember, An can tell if someone is lying or hiding something. So if she says that someone is not lying and is actually telling the truth, then you should trust them. So this is a very good thing, a very good person to have on the team. Ardo states that he can't stand seeing people just go in and basically get killed without really being able to do anything, and that this is his chance. An and Nazien thank him, as now they have to save the three idiots. With An taking command, saying it's time to kick things off, as we get another ominous panel at the end of the chapter, with Donnie passed out, and Percival yawning, being tired, most likely getting tired out after eating all that food, which hopefully is not human meat, and is just laced with something to make them tired, as these villagers, with their evil-looking grins, staring down at them. And that ends the chapter. So another nice Four Knights of the Apocalypse chapter, and again completely alludes to who Sin might actually be, and gives us clues on who this elder might be. Maybe he's a chaos beast, or maybe he's truly some sort of Knight of Camelot that has defected and is just doing this because he is cursed or something. Maybe he can't lead the mountain range or something. There's not really much we can tell until we get more information. But all I know is, this arc continues to put heavy emphasis on Sin. This is going to be Sin's arc. His reveal will be a really big reveal, even if it might end up being that he's Lancelot and it be very obvious. But there's not really much else to talk about this chapter. It's very obvious that Nakaba Suzuki is giving it more of a horror-esque thriller vibe with these new enemies, with the with the implication that these monsters are using the people that they've caught and are preparing food to feed to the people that come in so they can trick and kill and turn into food. Again, a very horror-esque vibe from this, and creepy vibe also. I hope that's not the case. It'd be an interesting twist, but I don't think Nakaba Suzuki is going to go that far. This is a shonen series, so yeah. But with all that said and done, I honestly believe this was another pretty solid chapter. I think last week's was better, as it kept alluding to a whole bunch of stuff, especially with Sin, and Sin had the very heavy focus of that chapter. This chapter continues to allude what's going on, and I'm still very convinced that this is going to be the arc where Sin reveals his true identity and true name. So, yeah, I really do believe that this is going to be Sin's actual introduction arc. The arc where he comes into his own as a member of the main cast. But, what did you guys think? Was this a really good chapter? Are you liking the vibe that this arc is providing with us? Do you think that once again that Sin is going to get his identity revealed? Let me know in the comments down below with your theories and speculations, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, let's push that 1K subscriber mark. We are really, really close, and I want to get there before the end of the year. And with all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day. What's up, guys? Chris here with another Four Knights of the Apocalypse manga chapter review, And I have to say, this one was a doozy. Last one had some really good setup, some very creepy vibes of what's actually going on in this new village. An and Nazians with a hunter to try and go and save Percival and Donnie from this den of monsters, and Sin encountering the elder of the village and seemingly falling unconscious. All this setting up from the last chapter to now. Something's going on with Sin and this village as a whole, and I want to find out more about what's going on. And this chapter really, and I mean really, takes things up a notch to the point where you have to wonder what's really going on, because this one answered a lot of questions, but also set up so many more answers. And I have to say, with all these questions and even more, we got answers, we got even more questions, you have to wonder what's Suzuki's plan for the rest of the series, because I'm still curious as to what is going on at this point. And we're going to get into that as we go on, because things might not be as they appear. But before we get into the actual video, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell for updates on future videos. It really does help. These Fortnite videos are doing very well on the channel, and I will keep bringing you guys content as quickly as I possibly can. We're inching ever closer to 1,000 subscribers, so I really hope you guys can help us get there. Once we reach 1,000 subscribers, I will be doing my best to upload more videos that aren't just chapter reviews, so look forward to that. And also, don't forget to check out my Patreon account, as well as Coffee, to help support the channel with different perks and the like. It really will help me get these videos out a lot sooner. But with all that out of the way, let's get straight into the video. The Four Knights of the Apocalypse, Chapter 34, True Nature's Exposed. And this is honestly a very, very accurate title, since we got a very creepy page to start this off, with the elder with all the villagers just smiling and smirking towards us, the reader. Anyway, we start off the chapter with An and Nazians going through the barrier to try and start the rescue mission, as the hunter slowly begins to go towards the barrier, and it seems his hand is repelled by it, as it's singed and burned. He tells the kids good luck and that it all depends on them now, as he then tries to get the attention of the monsters in the village, as he said he's going to be a distraction. Nazians is wondering if he's going to be alright, but An says that they have to hurry so that they can save everyone. And now they're heading to the idol in the center of town. An staying this time with Nazians to just vent her frustration, saying how much trouble Donnie and Percival are, and at this point she's just mainly complaining about Percival. And she even brings up a really good point. After everything that happened to him in Kant, how he can just go about things like nothing happened at all is like very bizarre. And Nazian says that that's what makes him Percival. That's just what makes him who he is, and that's true. I like that Percival's having like a more upbeat personality despite everything he went through in Kant. However, I do see there is going to be a breaking point with him at some point. And I do like how, since Percival's like Nazian's first real friend, he's just defending him every single chance he gets. And I think he's also, I think Nakaba's also trying to like ship the Nazian and Percival shippers, because there are those out there, and I do see that actually being a legitimate ship outside of like An and Percival and stuff like that. That's actually a very fun thing to think about. And I even like how An is just straight up saying telling Nazians to not defend him so much, and to just, treat him regularly and not just be kind to him every single chance he gets. And she even starts complaining about Sin, how he's incredibly pompous, and he just ditches them right when it seems that they need him most. I mean, right now they don't know that he is unconscious somewhere due to the Elder, so yeah, these are kind of justified. And she even An even tries to say that in order to be a holy knight, you gotta be cold, calculated, so you can understand all your circumstances. And Nazian even says you're griping about your friends under these. And An just straight up says, with no real shame or embarrassment, that she's taking this opportunity to show just how good of a leader she can be for all of them, so that she can be the leader of their group, and that this is the perfect chance for that. We all know for a fact that she's worried about them because they're her friends, but she still is very arrogant and wants to be the leader. So I do see this being an actual thing that I don't know, it's funny. It's a funny interaction. As Nazian just says, enough of that, let's just get the job done. And almost on cue, they notice Donnie in the distance, yelling in pain, clutching his head and kneeling on the ground. It's almost like his head is splitting, like he has a splitting pain in his head. Nazian tells An to go and destroy the idol as he goes to treat Donnie. An runs off towards where the idol should be as the townspeople are surrounding Donnie and Nazian's. Nazian's asking what happened as Donnie's just saying not to be very loud. It hurts his head as he looks over to the alcohol bottles that are on the ground and beginning to try and piece everything together. An begins to run and sneakily with Sylvain to try and find the idol as she hears Percival's voice and we see him getting tossed around by one of the villagers. She's concerned but ends up deciding to leave Percival there so she can go get the job done and go back for him because they don't have much time. If they can take out the idol, then it'll show Percival and Donnie what's going on and that they can start to fight back. But then we get the realization that Percival isn't really doing a serious fight. It seems like he's sparring with this villager, saying how strong he is. Nazian actually notices and calls up to him. As Percival asks if Donnie's alright, Donnie's fine now, thanks to Nazian's. As Donnie says that this is that this really was some real demon brew, and that he's never been so sick from it in his whole life. And Percival ends up answering Nazian's, asking what's going on. Turns out what Percival's been doing right now is that he's been teaching Gorin. You know, that Celtic fighting style, Celtic wrestling fighting style that has been shown multiple times throughout this series as something that Percival and his grandfather did for training and for fun almost every single day of their lives. And he's been teaching them to this villager who's called I hope I pronounce this right, Dolcemonte, and he's really good. Donnie's asking how he knows his name, and Percival just says he just kind of learned it as they played around. The villager speaks this language that we can't read. As Donnie says that they got no idea what he's trying to say, and Nazian even agrees that it's very unfamiliar, nothing like what you would hear in Britannia. Percival looks over, seems to nod, and then he begins to speak in that exact same language, asking what language is this? It's not originally from Britannia, where Nazians and Donnie are even shocked as well as how Percival can just literally understand and start to speak a language that they have no idea to comprehend or understand. And even Percival's like, why can't I understand this? So that's a very funny and very weird interaction. And I want to know more what's going on as we find out later in the chapter what type of language this actually is. But I'll get into that as we move on. We then cut to An as she's in the center of town where the idol is, and just hyping herself up and reminding herself of what we already know: destroying this idol or removing it from the spot will break down the barriers surrounding the town and show who these villagers actually are. She gets her rope ready, ties it around it, gets on Sylvain, as now she begins to pull. Cut to the elder as it appears he's possibly talking to Sin still, saying that he rather likes that wing-headed boy. A strange and fascinating lad, as he then gets a shiver down his spine, as well as all of the villagers with a weird crackling noise spiraling through them. And is wondering if the device is malfunctioning. With Sylvain pulling the rope as An is on the back, also pulling with all her strength, she's vowing to rescue her friends and make sure that no one gets the better of her, and that she'll never be a holy knight if she can't pull something like this off. As she then recites the Holy Knight's Creed, the idol then comes off from where it's placed, and it falls down to the ground, and then it gets destroyed as An just runs away from it. We then hear the crash in the distance where the hunter is, and we then get to see all the villagers just burst open in light, the crackling around them, as now, with all this going on, everyone's wondering what's going on. As Sparrow's saying, you scared me, Doltomoche, and then he pauses, and then we get to see he's a red demon, much to the shock of everyone around, and a big 2-page spread showing everyone in the village turning into gray and red demons. This village was a secret hideaway for the Demon Clan. This is insane. And This brings up so many questions. Why are these demons here? And this also brings to the fact why they needed that barrier to hide their true selves. And are these demons really bad? Because at the end of this chapter, the hunter states that they broke down the barrier and that they did a great job, as he then removes his coat, and we then see an armor plating on his arm, and it's revealed that he is a holy knight of Camelot, as he then states, "Let the hammer of blood fall upon other tribes. Now is the time to return Britannia to the human race." Basically, everything that all the holy knights of Camelot recite and follow for Arthur's ideals. So, even though he didn't really lie about, well, wanting to stop these monsters, this also shows that he wasn't technically lying, since An couldn't be deceived. It is a village of monsters, and he does want to get rid of them. He doesn't want any humans getting hurt from them, but he is a knight of Camelot, fully and firmly believing that all their tribes must be done away with, so that Britannia can be only for humans and humans alone. So let's back up for 3 main pieces of information. We just went over 1. This hunter is a holy knight of Camelot, and it seems that that barrier was not just concealing the demon clan's true forms, but also keeping out Arthur's Knights of Camelot. Now, who created this? I'm not sure. It could have been maybe Meliodas or Zeldris. Maybe Merlin set this up like years in advance or something. We don't know. But this guy is a holy knight, and it seems that he has been like staking the village out, potentially waiting for someone that could go through that barrier and tricking them into convincing them that that village is not what it seems, to get rid of the idol, the center of the town, the thing that's keeping him out, so that he can go in full swing and destroy the demons. 2, what are the demons doing there? A village literally on a mountain range that's on the other side is Leonis. And remember, Meliodas is a demon. Zeldris is a new king of the demon realm from the end of the 7 deadly sins, since the demon king is, has been killed. So what are these demons doing on this mountain range? Are these the demons that during the Holy War, after defeating the Demon King, were these demons just left behind, unable to go back to the demon realm? Did they want to stay and live a life there without having to hurt anybody? And if so, did Meliodas set this up so that they could have these disguises so that they could interact with people going across the mountain ranges, perhaps helping them out, beginning to show them that they're not so bad? But also, here's the thing: all these demons speak in the demon tongue, but the Elder can speak plain English. He's most likely probably a powerful and old demon, perhaps maybe a member of Zeldris's inner circle. We are not entirely sure, because this guy is definitely a very intelligent demon, as he is able to actually speak the Britannian tongue. Meanwhile, all lower level demons basically can't speak that. And this also explains that their creepy smiles and grins and being unable to talk to everyone else in Britannia. But one of the biggest pieces of information alongside this is also the fact that Percival can speak the demon tongue. We have more questions about Percival. We know he's one of the members of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse. He's basically immortal to an extent, but now it seems that he can speak the language of the Demon Clan. We don't know who Percival is. All we know is his father's a holy knight, but what's going on here? Is he half demon, perhaps? That's a theory that's been going on that I've seen on some of the Reddits and on social media. Is Percival half demon, similar to, let's say, Tristan? I'm not sure. Was his mother a demon or something like that? Or is there something else in Percival that makes him able to understand it? Maybe it's part of his hero type power. Maybe he's able to pick up other languages or something like that. I'm not sure. I don't know. But I want to find out. And I feel like at the end of this arc, we're going to find out. And before I end off this chapter, I really do feel like this is going to be the arc where Sin reveals who his identity is, as we keep getting hints of, well, not just hints, teases of Sin, being needed by the gang, thanks to An. And the last 2 chapters have been giving us more Sin-centric perspectives. And I'm just really curious as to what the hell is going on. And I really hope that the common theory that pretty much everyone in the fanbase has by now, that Sin is in fact really Lancelot. If Sin is Lancelot, this makes everything comes full circle, makes it complete and total sense. And if Sin is Lancelot, perhaps he's staying in that fox form because he can only he can't reveal his identity just yet, so that the Knights of Camelot can actually believe that the rest of the 4 knights are scattered throughout Britannia and no one knows their true identities. So if he reveals that he is one of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse, then they might even go after Bon and the Fairy King's forest that Bon is in charge of at the moment. We're not entirely sure. I do hope that this sets up for Lancelot's true big reveal, because it does make sense that he would be the first member of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse that Percival would meet, because after the end of the Seven Deadly Sins manga, and before the first chapter of the series, in that time frame, we got a one-shot following Lancelot, as well as stating that he disappeared for a good number of years, I think 6 or 7 years, and he appeared all of a sudden afterwards. Maybe something to do with the Lady of the Lake. We don't know, other phenomenon. There's a whole mess of things that we don't know yet, and it makes thematic and it makes a whole lot of narrative sense, as with Lancelot being the last character for us to see between the Seven Deadly Sins manga ending and the beginning of this new series. It makes perfect sense that he is the first member of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse to join Percival. But that's all for my little speculations and theories and stuff like that. What did you guys think of this chapter? What do you think of the fact that there is a literal village of demons between, let's say, Camelot and Leonis on this weird mountain range, and that there is a Holy Knight of Camelot ready to exact divine justice, divine punishment on these demons? And what do you think is up with Percival knowing the language of the demons all of a sudden? Leave it all down in the comments down below, as well as whether or not Lancelot is actually going to be revealed to be Sin in this arc, because all signs point to that being a very strong possibility. But without further ado, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps. Inching ever closer to 1,000 subscribers, and I'm really hoping we make it to that before the end of the year. And with all that said, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have an awesome day. What's up, guys? Chris here again with another 4 Knights of the Apocalypse manga chapter review. And I have to say, this arc just keeps gearing up and doing things that I never expected, and it even giving us some more wholesome moments in a pretty dire chapter and arc, with last chapter dropping a huge bombshell that there was a literal village of demons between the border of the areas between Camelot and Leonis, living seemingly like humans with some kind of barrier. Hints that Sin is not a fox, which is obvious, possibly hinting towards him maybe being Lancelot. A subscriber also pointed out that maybe it's Bon disguised as a fox, but thematically better as Lancelot. And the reveal that the huntsman that was helping Nazians and on trying to get into the village to save Percival and Donnie was actually a Holy Knight of Camelot who just wanted the barrier to go down so he could invade and basically take out all of the demons, due to Arthur's whole ideology of there being a land only for humans and all of the other species have to go. This chapter comes off right at the heels of last week's, and I have to say, this series keeps getting better and better with each and every arc, giving us even more questions that still no answers to, but I know most of them are going to be answered next arc in Leonis, because I do think that after this arc we have to go to Leonis. But with all that said and done, before we get into the actual review, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps. At the point of me recording this video, we're around 840 subscribers. And if we keep going up this way, I see this channel reaching 900 subscribers by the end of October, and maybe even 1,000 by the end of November, if we don't get any more than the usual amount of subscribers every single month. So let's inch ever closer to the 1,000 subscriber mark. So please hit the notification bell and subscribe to the channel and like the video to show how much you like me doing the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse content. Once we get a few more chapters in, maybe around chapter 50, because that'll be roughly a year since this series has been out. If that's how many chapters come out this year, I will start doing more miscellaneous 4 Knights of the Apocalypse and 7 Deadly Sins videos, maybe theories or just discussions on what I think could possibly happen. Maybe I'll Taking 101 style, maybe I'll get a green screen or something and just do actual me talking instead of just showing you images up on the screen. I don't know yet. But also, don't forget to check out my Patreon, which I made back when I reached 500 subscribers. If you want to help support the channel, I got some pretty good perks on there. A Discord server for patrons only, access to specific polls, and even giving you the ability to actually help me pick what video I could do next. So if you want to help support the channel and maybe also get me to talk about a series that you like, go and check out my Patreon and help support the channel. I also have a Ko-fi account if you want to give little tips here and there to help boost this channel's proficiency. I can't speak. But with all that out of the way, let's get right into the chapter. Chapter 35, A Sinister Endeavor. And let's just say this is actually kind of an adorable cover page with the big red demon and Percival standing right in front of him looking all innocent. That's honestly kind of a hilarious way to start off a chapter after last week's huge bombshell. But anyway, we start off right where the last chapter ended off, through Aunt's perspective actually, her realizing just what the villagers actually are. All the demons surrounding her, looking at her, and she's just freaking out and running away, and she's calling for Donnie and Percival. Percival calls out to her after hearing her, and when she's trying to ask if he's okay, she sees the giant demon that Percival became friends with last chapter, holding on to Donnie, Nazianz, and Percival in his hands, as Aunt just freaks out, starts crying and swinging her sword around, telling the demon to just let them go, or she'll make him pay, with Donnie and Nazianz just being like, well, I can't exactly blame her for reacting this way, just with the whole, yeah, this is a normal reaction, right? But all it takes is Percival saying that the monster Doltamanche, which is his actual name, which I honestly forgot, is okay, and that he's their friend. As we then get a few more shots of the demons just chatting in the demon tongue, as Nazianz and Aunt are kind of recuperating with Donnie and just discussing what's going on, that this is just one big surprise. But the even bigger surprise of the day is just Percival having a flat-out conversation with the demons with that language, and everyone wondering how in the hell Percival can just talk to the demons at all. And even everyone just wondering, why did they even come here in the first place? Destroying the idol just to make them look... Destroying the idol made their human forms disappear. We then get that the Elder states that destroying the idol helped get an enemy come into the village. Which, this is actually a pretty big deal, because I was under the interpretation that the Elder, this big-ass guy, who, in all honesty, does kind of look like the Demon King, in a certain extent, is actually human. He's the only human in this village, and he's been looking after the demons, looking like it. So that's honestly kind of hilarious and a big bombshell, because I honestly thought that maybe he was a demon himself after the big reveal that there was a demon, that this was a whole demon village. But yeah, that's honestly a pretty good that's honestly something really cool. Maybe this guy was raised by the demons here or something, or maybe he came across the demons, saw they weren't so bad, and decided to stay here and help them just live a life of peace or something like that, to avoid people. Maybe help travelers every once in a while. You never know. But Nazianz asks if they were the ones that were the enemy, but the Elder just states that it's not them, but someone else. A human who despises all the villagers. As we then see Ard, the huntsman, who is truly a knight of Camelot, appear right behind them on a cliff. Very reminiscent of how Ironside was in the very first chapter, coming down to meet Percival's grandfather. Basically stating that this man is just a whole monster mastermind. And Nazianz are confused as to why he looks like that, as the Elder confirms that the knight used and Nazianz to just break the idol so that he can enter the village and reveal their true forms. He then introduces himself with his true name, Ardbeg, as a holy knight in King Arthur's service, and he's waited a long time for this moment to break into the village, telling the demons to prepare to die, and he'll take them all out at once. As he says that they are members of the demon clan, to the shock of An, Donnie, and Nazianz, as they didn't even know what the demon clan looked like. They weren't even born during the Holy War, so they have no idea what the demon clan looks like. So this is a very natural reaction to them seeing demons for the first time, but not knowing that they are demons. So that's honestly really, really good. And I like how they keep mentioning that the demons, it appears that the demons were responsible for the Holy War 16 years ago. And I like how Donnie just immediately asks Percival if he knew that, but Percival just says that this demon just told him literally just a second. as the Elder talks to the Holy Knight, trying to convince him that the demons in this village fled their clan after refusing to fight in the war. Here's a quick mini theory. Perhaps these are the demons that Elizabeth managed to convince, possibly 3,000 years ago, or maybe during the Holy War, to not fight. If you don't want to fight, leave. Find a way to protect yourselves from the clan that wants to keep, from your clan that wants to keep fighting. And I like that there are demons that didn't want to fight in the Holy War. It makes sense. They're not all just a hive mind or share the exact same ideals, showing that each of these demons have their own type of, individuality. And I like that there's a whole village of all these different demons. It makes total sense. Otherwise, what was the point of Meliodas and Zeldris being different, aside from them being the Demon King, or any of the 10 Commandments? Or, yeah, it makes complete and total sense, and I'm glad that this thing has been acknowledged. But anyway, the Ardbeg doesn't listen at all, and just states, so what if they chose not to fight in the Holy War? They're demons. That's all that really matters. And how much did everyone sacrifice in the Holy War 16 years ago? And he pulls something out of his jacket, out of his armor, stating that everyone will know what was sacrificed very soon, as he pulls out what seems like Goddess Amber, as he chants a spell, pulling all of the demons in the village into this rock. Every single demon. Now, if you remember in the 7 Deadly Sins, we've seen Goddess Amber a few times. First time was when a weakened Meliodas was sealed in it by Veronica in the Visal Festival arc. But he managed to break free because that Goddess Amber was too small and could not contain all of Meliodas' full power. And we also saw it more in the Druid training arc, where we saw that there was just this giant piece of Goddess Amber that held all of Meliodas' true power inside. Now this one is pretty small, and it managed to seal up a buttload of demons, presumably like 3 or 4 dozen demons, from what I can tell from the size of the village. We don't get a full head count. Everyone's shocked that all the demons are gone, as Ardbeg states that this piece of Goddess Amber is actually a very advanced one, because he calls it the Amber of the 4 Archangels. Once again referring to stuff from the 7 Deadly Sins, and I like it. Adding even more lore for possibly people that are jumping onto the series here for Four Knights of the Apocalypse, building on stuff from the previous series. So I like that there were different levels of these Goddess Ambers, and this is probably made from the 4 Archangels with their celestial power to seal up multiple demons. So I like how he explains that this is different from any kind of Goddess Amber that we've seen before, and this has most likely been created with the power of the four Archangels. Anyway, Ardbeg looks down and notices Percival asking where the demons are, and Ardbeg seems to have misunderstood, stating that the demon that was about to crush you is now inside this crystal. And then he notices Percival's hair, like his green hair with the wings of a bird, and he notices the dragon's scabbard, the dragon handle, as Ironside stated that he had lost it in a big battle, realizing that Percival is one of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse. But as he's stating that, Percival straight up asks why he did that to the demons, stating that Doltamacha and the other demons, they were good people too. They didn't deserve to be sealed away, stating that they're his friends. Ardbeg states, "Friend? A demon is your friend? A demon is good people?" As he then springs down his sword to hit Percival, as Percival masterfully blocks it with one hand, mind you, showing just how strong he actually is. And he blocks Ardbeg's attack, as he explains that the prophecy was right. Percival will destroy the whole world, associating with the Demon Clan. As I like that we get to see inside his mask, seeing Ardbeg's enraged and infuriated face, contorted with just straight up hatred. So I feel like, I'm going to get into this a little later, but it's definitely highly possible that every one of these Holy Knights are victims of the Holy War, primarily from Camelot. So I'll get into that a bit more as I'm going to talk about the Cursed by Light movie, which I'm sorry I didn't make a video on it as soon as it came out. I had a lot of stuff going on, so I'll talk about that later. Ardbeg continues to state that for the ideal that Arthur sees, he's going to make sure that Percival is dead. An tries to plead with Ardbeg to let Percival go, but he just states, "Look, just leave this area at once. He won't do anything. It's none of their business as Anna and Ozyans both resolutely tell him that Percival is their friend, their comrades, their companions. They're not just going to leave him be. And they literally state what happened with Ironside, that Ironside was torturing them, and Percival saved them. Ironside was going to kill them, and Percival saved them, saying that he's a hero. And we can tell that Ardberg might actually be hesitating a little bit, because he could tell that they weren't bad people. And Percival just straight out says to give that back to Crystal and release everyone at once. Ardberg tells Percival to be quiet as he raises his sword, telling his dog, which was actually some kind of chaos beast called Cernunnos. I can't pronounce it well. I honestly can't pronounce it well. Saying to dispatch the prophesized knight at once, with that ending the chapter. And I have to say, setting up a fight between some sort of chaos beast and Percival and a holy knight, not bad. Not bad. And adding even more lore to the Seven Deadly Sins world is something I'm always in for. But the thing is, I didn't mention this while I was going through this chapter, but An does mention just straight up mentions, why isn't Sin here? And Sin seems to had been knocked out by the Elder. Now, I don't know what's going on there. The Elder seems like an actually good guy, but maybe he knocked out Sin for some other reason. For that, I'm not entirely sure, but there's still a lot to go about things. I do still think that this arc is going to reveal that Sin is actually Lancelot, or maybe someone affiliated with Lancelot or the Seven Deadly Sins. Because back in the Sistana arc, we were told that the only ones capable of destroying all those Chaos Beasts, seemingly in an instant, would be someone from the Seven Deadly Sins. Which would make sense playing into the evidence that Sin might be Bond. But Sin does not have the same personality as Bond, and even if Bond wanted to act it, he is not the same kind of guy that Sin is. Which means it could be Lancelot, and one piece of evidence is that Lancelot knows more than possibly someone at his age should know, and it's highly possible that Bond and the Sins told him about this so he can go on the mission to find the rest of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, or when he was taken in the Lancelot one-shot back, I don't know, I think in last summer in mid-August, right after the Seven Deadly Sins manga concluded, that he was taken for 10 years, presumably by the Lady of the Lake. And maybe he learned a whole bunch of stuff about chaos and the history of the demons and stuff like that. But that's still a big unknown. And the very last thing I want to talk about is why all these holy knights are so adamant about preserving Arthur's ideals and possibly even contorting them even more to suit themselves. Perhaps, and I just said this, every member of the current generation of holy knights were most likely survivors of the previous Holy War from people that were killed off by the demons in Camelot. Remember, Camelot was just wiped off the face of the map in the battle against the Demon King. So it's highly possible that all these knights harbor a ton of hatred for the demons in particular, but also every other race, because it was that very Holy War that basically doomed themselves and their loved ones to pain, suffering, and loss. So it makes complete total sense why they would latch onto Arthur's ideology and have themselves fueled with rage and anger. Now, Arthur does not seem like someone, from what we've seen of him, we've only seen him for 2 chapters, is filled with rage and anger. In the Cursed by Light movie, we see that he is very saddened by losing all the people. And we saw there was a lot of people that straight up died during the clash with the Demon King. He made dozens of graves. And with the end of that movie, we get the interpretation that maybe this whole thing with the Supreme Deity and the Demon King being gone, the Age of Gods being gone, and this being the Age of Chaos and humans, perhaps Arthur just sees this as a way to possibly just make this world for humans. Maybe he'll use the power of chaos, and with the Coffin of Eternal Darkness, maybe seal all the other clans away in their own world, where they can live out the rest of their lives. Maybe he himself doesn't want to just eradicate every other clan in the world. He doesn't want to erase the fairy folk, the giant clan, the demon clan, even the goddess clan. But it's highly possible that the rest of the Camelot Knights see this differently and just want to eradicate them all due to all the pain, suffering, and loss they suffered during the Holy War. But that's all I can really tell. Let me know what you think down in the comments down below. What do you think of this chapter? What do you think of everything going on with this arc? How do you think it's going to end? Let me know in the comments down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps. I am really enjoying the Four Knights of the Apocalypse manga even more every single week, and I hope to keep doing this every time a new chapter comes out. And also, do whatever you can to help share these videos on the channel, so I can get to that 1,000 subscriber mark before the end of the year. November is my goal to reach 1,000 subscribers, so if you can, help me out. And with all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day. What's up guys, Chris here again with another Four Knights of the Apocalypse manga chapter review, and this arc just keeps getting better and better with a pretty good ending to the arc, and also proving something that I had speculated in the last chapter review regarding the guards of Camelot's Holy Knight that is attacking Percival and the like. And I have to say, this series keeps getting better and better, and I'm glad I'm covering this week to week, because the hype just keeps getting more and more better, if that even makes any sense. And we're just going to get into this chapter within in the next minute or so. But before I continue, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps. This channel is still inching closer and closer to 1,000 subscribers. We're really close to 900. And hopefully we can get to that by the end of October if things keep going the way they are. So please help us get to that point. Also, I have a Patreon and a Ko-fi account down below, so you guys can help support the channel however you see fit by donating to the channel and helping me ensure that I get these videos out a lot quicker than they normally do, and maybe even make even more videos as this channel continues to grow. And I just want to do a quick plug-in. I actually have a webtoon at the moment that I'm trying to get off the ground. See how that turns out, but I would really appreciate the support on that. I have the link to the video up above in the title card, along with the other Four Knights and manga content I have for the channel, and there's going to be a link in the description below. So for a while I'm going to be promoting this webtoon. With that out of the way, let's get into the chapter. Last week we essentially got the reveal of, well, the Holy Knight being a Holy Knight, everything going on with the demon race, Percival somehow learning how to speak their language, and Ardberg using his dog to turn into seemingly like a chaos beast originally, but I get more answers into what this is in this chapter, and he sicks it on Percival, and that's where the chapter ends. I know I kind of glossed over a lot, but we did a lot of good misdirection with the last couple of chapters, so I'm glad that we're getting some more concrete evidence of what's going on. Now then, moving on to chapter 36, and now I finally know how to pronounce that dog's name. It's Cernunnos. Cernunnos, the mystic beast. I don't know why it's hard for me to pronounce words now. But before I get into really quick, Cernunnos is actually the name of that horn thing in the beginning of the Seven Deadly Sins in the first season that Bond was trying to get it, because it was stated that the horn of Cernunnos can communicate with the Goddess clan. So it's very highly possible that Cernunnos is a type of beast that once a horn is cut off, it can be turned into the horn and be used to communicate with the goddesses or something like that. So this makes this beast very important to the plot now, and presents a whole bunch of different questions. Are there just multiples of these beasts, like I speculated? Or is this just one and it's managed to survive after losing its first horn or something like that? But anyway, getting on with the chapter. The beast is staring down at them, with everyone wondering if that was just a dog before them. And Malzians actually describes Cernunnos as a myth, that is a god with deer antlers. And I like how Anna's just saying this is definitely a dog regardless. Ardberg continues to say that Kelly is not a dog or a deer, but a mystic beast that resides in the depths of hell. So it's very possible that this thing is from the demon realm, or perhaps maybe purgatory, similar to Hawk. Anyway, Cernunnos gets up to Percival, snips him, breathes on him, and then basically just hits him with his paw against the wall with a very destructive force, much to Percival's surprise and everyone, as it then charges up a beam from its horns and begins to launch it straight at Percival. Now imagine if Percival knew full counter, this would be no problem at all. Seriously, Percival, learn full counter, you got the sword. When you meet Meliodas, you gotta learn full counter. If not, make sure Tristan knows full counter. It's written right there, it's obvious. But yeah, Percival manages to dodge out of the way at the very last second. We get to see the aftermath, a huge explosion that probably would have really hurt Percival to begin with. And Cernunnos then lunges towards Percival and tries to eat him. chop him up. But Percival, thanks to his magical power, manages to fly out of the way at the very last second. Nausians instructs Percival to go after the antlers in order to stop those wild attacks, so Percival takes his dragon sword and begins to try and hit it. But much to the shock, it doesn't even leave a scratch. With it being revealed that the horns are harder than as hard as garnet, and even steel can't beat them. So Percival tries to create a blade out of his aura, out of his magical power, like he did in his last fight against Tolkser during the Echo Gorge arc, and as we've seen previously, he then does a barrage of slashes on the horn, but even that doesn't do anything. He then gets hit point blank by this electrical attack, and he's knocked down. As this is going on, Sylvain runs for his damn life, hides inside a shack, hoping that the monster can't find him. As much as I know this horse doesn't talk, and I'll get an inner monologue of this thing as like some kind of comedic relief or something like that, and he stumbles upon Sin. Talk about some really nice coincidences. He runs to the exact same shack that Sin was in. So he tries to wake him up, and Sin manages to get up. As she states, it's nice that old man. He basically just says, I don't know if it's mostly sarcastically, but he says, nice of the bastard to give me a long nap. As he then hears the commotion outside, yawning as he's just woken up, and he notices Percival fighting against Keranos. And I like how it's basically pointed out by Donnie that Keranos is just toying with Percival at this point, just playing around. Even though he's trying to kill him, he's playing around, not going all out. And even his handler is telling him to stop playing around just to finish this. An pops up behind him and tells him just to not kill Percival, and to tell his dog to stop, stating that she tricked them, but she can see lies and is wondering how he managed to do it. And he just stated, I never told you any lies. And even though An's trying to deny this, he was basically telling the truth. He was a hunter, and he just wanted to hunt the demons inside the mountain. Hell, even he is trembling with frustration, as An states that he offered to help their friends, and he generously, truly did want to help Percival and Donnie, but he didn't know that Percival was one of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse. So it's very possible that An would have, if he knew this, he probably would still help them, but would have taken advantage of it to try and kill Percival also, and An would have noticed something. But then the Elder comes up and states that it's not all out of virtue, since basically he used the kids to his own ends. While wanting to help them out was one part of it, his main objective was to enter the village and eradicate it. And it also ends up telling us what exactly the barrier does, why it kept Art out. It keeps out anyone with hostile or murderous intent. That is really good. That is a really nice barrier, and I wonder who created the barrier, whether it was the Elder, or maybe someone from Leonis, or someone from the Demon Realm, or something like that. I'm not entirely sure. But it's very interesting. Ard then pushes on back and states that it's true. He wanted in there so he could take advantage. So he took advantage of everybody. An asks for the crystal back, stating that she will end up releasing all the demons that were taken out. Stating that demons did nothing at all against them. But Ard states how basically she is just foolhardy and knows nothing of the turmoil from 16 years ago, as he goes into pretty good depth of the destruction the Demon Clan did 16 years ago during the Holy War when they were resurrected. The Ten Commandments, the Demon King, everything. Just going into full-on detail, and even showing us someone that seemingly looked like him. So many people died, a whole bunch of tragedy, even An's shocked by this, as he tells him, as he tries to tell her that this is just, she knows nothing of this, and to just let him take out Percival, because with the arrival of the prophesized knights, things will be even darker than what happened with the demons 16 years ago. The very world will be destroyed if the 4 knights are left to their own devices. And so he can't hesitate to even kill a child. So this is something I mentioned in my previous review, in the fact that maybe all the knights so far are so gung-ho about eradicating all the other races and clans in this series is because of what happened in the Holy War 16 years ago. I mean, the demons, I understand. I completely understand. And maybe even the goddesses to an extent, since it's basically like one big game to them. But I'm not so convinced about the fairies and the giants since they've been basically neutral from the very start. And giants have been mercenaries to humans, fairies have just been completely away from it, and if anything, the fairies have more reason to hate the humans than the humans have the fairies. So it's possible it's something that happened with the Cursed by Light movie, but then again, nothing really happened with the giants, so it's very possible there's just a warped viewpoint that they have to get rid of all the other clans so that with only humans around, things will be nice and peaceful. I mean, that's very idealistic, but that makes entire sense for someone that's seen a whole bunch of tragedy to the point where it's practically nearly broken. And it shows that Ard is kind of sympathetic to an extent. He's experienced a ton of tragedy and potentially even lost his own child due to the demon's attack in the Holy War. And now he's just clinging onto the whole kingdom for humans and getting rid of the other the other clans as a way for him to basically make sure that future generations don't have to go through what he goes through. So I like that. It's showing that they're not just evil villains, but they're people that just want vengeance and want to get rid of whatever it is that could cause potential trouble and danger to Britannia and the world as a whole. So this is honestly something I like. I'm glad we're getting into something like this, because as much as I didn't care if they were just generic villains, just wanted to erase all the other clans, it makes sense why these humans do in fact want revenge. Especially if we go into the final arc of the Seven Deadly Sins and the Cursed by Light movie to see just how grand the casualties in Camelot specifically were. So yeah, that's a nice little thing to get into. But back to the chapter. Percival gets knocked on the ground, he tries getting up, and Sin appears asking what Percival is actually doing. Stating that he just got his new sword made and everything, while Percival is trying to state that even though that his sword was just made and it's super strong, that beast is really strong. He even tried using his magic sword. And Sin ends up giving Percival the best kind of advice ever, and it's the most obvious form of advice. Why not use both at the exact same time? As Percival looks down at his hand with his magic sword and his actual sword, and is like, add them up as one? As then he does that and enchants his sword with his magical power, creating a big ass magic sword combined with the dragon sword to enhance all the power. And I like how Sin does in fact state that it's not just addition, it's not just addition, it's exponential. So it's basically like a power multiplier. So once again, Nakawa Suzuki giving us that Dragon Ball type inspiration, even though it's not like fusion like with the original demon and the original Seven Deadly Sins. This is something that boosts the durability and actual effectiveness of Percival's sword with the magic. So now he's just going to launch straight at Keranos. So it takes a sword, states that this is going to work as Keranos lunges towards him, and then he slices off one of Keranos' horns with ease, ending the chapter. So, I have to say, Fortnite the Apocalypse is doing good, and it is doing a lot of great work with the groundwork in all generosity, with how things are with Percival's growth, and learning how to use his powers. I like how Sin is just basically being like the mentor figure in this. As much as I would have liked it if Hauser joined them, I feel like Hauser would have helped with the situation since he is the Holy Knight Grandmaster, and he also experienced stuff that happened during the Holy War. But seeing Sin helping Percival learn things shows just how much more experienced Sin is in using magic and combat in general. And it's also placed into the fact that in the Seven Deadly Sins, we see this a lot where characters enchanted their weapons with their own magical power or with spells to make them incredibly more powerful. And with Percival's basic toolbox type power up, he can do this to his own sword, making it even more stronger. So I like seeing this. I believe that everybody had this in mind from the very beginning when Percival could do this. And I was wondering, when is he going to do this to a sword? When is he going to get a sword and use this with an actual sword? And I originally thought he probably might not get a sword, and he would just be using his aura to fight and create makeshift weapons. But doing this makes him a lot more deadly and a much more versatile fighter. But yeah, this chapter is over, and I have to say, I like what we got with Ard. He is a survivor of the Holy War, officially confirmed, and he experienced a lot of horror and despair and loss. And shows just how disbarred the current generation is when it comes to all this stuff, especially with the demons and stuff like that in the Holy War, as they're basically living in a time of peace. Yes, Camelot and Leonis seem to be having a big conflict, but overall they haven't really experienced the threat that happened 16 years ago and all that loss with that constant basic war. So I like that this is giving us more depth to all of the Knights of Camelot and some more insight as to why they're so gung-ho about doing these orders for Arthur. But again, the demons, and even to an extent the goddesses, I completely and utterly understand why they would want to get rid of them. The giants and fairies, I am not too thrilled on why they want to get rid of the giants and fairies, because overall, the giants and fairies didn't do anything really that bad to the humans. Fairies just kept to themselves, and giants were basically just mercenaries for the humans to the end, to participate in wars. So, I mean, unless you were the victims, that would make sense, but then again, the giants didn't really do this out of just pure malice. It was just a job. And if anything, the other kingdoms that hired those giants are more to blame than the actual giants, to an extent. But yeah, that's all my opinion. I could be entirely wrong here, and I could have missed something from the original series, so let me know in the comments down below. Overall, what did you guys think of this chapter? Was it good? Was it bad? Do you think that we're finally going to get the reveal of Sin's actual form and who he actually is? Because I have to say, it's been teased so much, especially since the Sistana arc. I mean, come on, is he actually Bond in disguise? I mean, he doesn't fit Bond's general personality traits, so I don't really think so. But it's more likely that he's Lancelot. Is he Lancelot? I want to know. This arc has been building up so many loose threads. If it doesn't happen this arc, then he's gonna have to reveal himself once they get to Leonis. But yeah, right now we haven't seen what Art himself can do, and he still has a Chaos staff. So what he's gonna do with that, I'm not entirely sure. I don't think he's gonna use it on any of the kids since they are human, and despite them being friends with Percival and trying to stop him, he's not going to kill them. He could have killed on or chaosified her at any moment, but he isn't. Compared to someone like Tulsker and Ironside, he is a genuinely nicer person, just fully consumed with revenge and anger towards all the other clans, that he just has to do what he has to do. He's consumed by hatred, but he won't just kill innocent children. Percival's an exception because he's one of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, and I could tell that he most likely doesn't want to kill a child. So yeah, I'm glad we're getting some more depth to some of these new Holy Knights, and adding on to the lore of the story. And again, what did you guys think? Do you think it's good that we're getting this type of depth and well, expansion of these enemy knights that we're going to continue to run into? Do you still think that Sin is Lancelot, or do you still think that this arc in particular is when Sin will reveal his identity of being Lancelot, maybe Bond, if anything? But if it was Bond, he probably would have showed himself already. Or someone completely different, or maybe he's just a talking fox, for all we know. But yeah, leave all your thoughts and opinions down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and help us get to 900 subscribers before the end of the month, and help us even further to reach 1,000 subscribers. And with all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day. What's up guys, Chris here with another Four Knights of the Apocalypse manga chapter review. And I have to say, this one was not overly hype as the last two chapters were. It did give us a nice cooldown and setup for seemingly the climax of this arc. At first, I was thinking, when I first started reading this chapter, that we were going to go into a whole other arc right after this one, before Leonis. That still might very well be the case. But with how this chapter's progressed, it sets something up that I really hope happens, which I'll get into after I go over the entire chapter. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. It really does help, and hit the notification bell so you can be updated with future videos. It helps with the YouTube algorithm so you can continue to watch my videos. We're also still getting closer and closer to 900 subscribers, soon to the 1,000 subscriber mark, and I'm hoping that we can get there before the end of the year. So here's hoping that things work out, and I really appreciate the support. I also have a Patreon and Ko-fi accounts linked down below if you guys want to help support the channel more directly in terms of helping me get videos out a lot sooner. That way I don't just do like the simple 2 to 3 videos a week depending on the chapter reviews, with the occasional miscellaneous other review or discussion here and there. So if you want to help out, go to my Ko-fi and my Patreon accounts, preferably Patreon because you get more benefits, and that's with as much benefits as I can give you, me being a small time creator and all. But as the channel will grow, I will add more benefits to that. But I believe the benefits do justify everything that I have set up. Without further ado, let's get right into this review. So last chapter basically had a battle between Percival and the giant antler dog, deer god type thing from hell, according to Ardberg Kerdanos, which, like I said, basically a big callback to the end of the Seven Deadly Sins' first major saga with the Holy Knights in Hendrickson, with the Trumpet of Kerdanos, which is said to contact the Goddess Clan. So that was a nice little callback, and also makes you think how this whole trumpet was created in the first place. Did Meliodas or a Holy Knight previously manage to defeat a beast like this Kerdanos? Is it the same beast? Is it not? I'm not sure. All we know is that it's just one giant beast. Percival can't really make any dents or scratches in it, as he keeps getting basically like toyed around with and stuff like that by this beast. We do get backstory, at least a bit of backstory and motivation for why Ardberg wants to eradicate all the other clans, specifically the demons, which I think every Holy Knight around the world does want just the demons to be gone, and he seals away all the demons. And he then learns that Percival is Knight of the Apocalypse. The chapter basically ends with Sin coming back into the fold, telling Percival to combine his magical power to enhance his sword, and with that the chapter ends with Percival managing to slice off one of Kerdanos' horns. And that's where we start off this chapter. Chapter 37, The Cornered. This is a very apt chapter. So we start off where last chapter ended off, with Percival slicing off one of Kerdanos' horns. Kerdanos writhing in pain as the horn does connect to his nervous system. Percival is just wondering, how did I do this? I did this. How did I do this? And Percival has explained this by Sin, as I'm going to quote him verbatim right here. Weapons enchanted by magic earn more than just the magic's traits. It doubles or triples the blade's strength and destructive force too. And if the magic itself is the destroyer type, the weapon can pack nearly 10 times the punch. And as we know from earlier on in the series, specifically during his fight with Pelgart, Percival's magic type, the hero type, basically encompasses all the other types. So it basically counts as a destruction type. So yeah, that explains how he was able to basically cut through Kerdanos' horn like butter. So while Sin is explaining this, Kerdanos comes in for another round, and Percival then slices off the second horn with ease, with everyone cheering him on. And Percival kind of gloating, this is great, it cuts things great now, yada yada yada. But then Kerdanos comes around and tries to eat Percival, grabbing him in his mouth and trying to chomp him and chew him. Everyone tries to run towards Percival's aid, and Donnie calls out to Naziens, as Naziens uses his poison. At the same time, Percival is using his magical power to create a sphere to force open the Kerdanos' mouth. Naziens missed, Misty Rain, Belladonna manages to put Kerdanos to sleep. And ending the fight, Percival survives. All is well and good. Everyone's wondering why that Percival is okay. And Percival thanks everyone for their help, and Donnie says smugly now they have to deal with the Holy Knight. But, much to our surprise, he just straight up books it out of there. He just starts running, saying that it's a strategic retreat. Percival starts to go after him, and when Donnie said we should just let him go, or should we follow him, when Percival brings up the fact that he still has the Archangel level Goddess Amber. So Percival goes to look for him, but Ardberg manages to hide behind some ruins, and Percival kind of loses track of him. And it is brought up that he does kind of know the lay of the land better than anyone else there, and the Elder speaks up stating that he's likely in Crystal Grotto, and he hands Percival his helmet back. And I like how, while we're getting the explanation of the Crystal Grotto, this little nice thing is that Percival's hair is like too big and poofy to him just to put the helmet on himself. So An has to literally like force the helmet down. It's not really much of like a plot detail, but that's just fun to see. So it'd be hilarious if Percival has to go through that every single time his helmet comes off. So the Elder tells us that the Crystal Grotto is a maze of caverns right near the village, and it's basically most likely where Ardberg is camping. After Percival manages to get his helmet on, he states with confidence that it's time to head out for the Crystal Grotto and to rescue all the demons. The elder basically confirms Percival's name and states that he knows the villagers are demons. Why do you wish to help them? Which is a really nice question. And Percival very simply just says that one of the demons is his friend and everyone in the village was nice to him. The elder also brings up a very good point that they might be gentle and shy away from battle, but they're demons and they're part of the same tribe that caused a ton of bloodshed and horrors and warfare all those years ago. Percival questions it and just says he doesn't see it that way. And he states very aptly, just because his grandpa was killed by a human like his dad does not mean that he hates all of mankind. And just because his dad is like a mean holy knight, in his words, that doesn't mean he's given up on becoming a holy knight. And there are a lot of good holy knights, and I like how he mentions Hauser. So, I like that. And I guess it's the same for the demons here in this village. They were all good guys to me, so whether or not they're human or demon, if they're good to me, I'm not gonna care. Just because one person is bad to me, I'm not gonna just blindly judge everyone else. The elder says he understands his feelings, and I think we all kind of do, and that's a very shonen protagonist way to deal with things. I honestly kind of want to compare Percival to like Luffy in a sense that Luffy literally doesn't just judge a bunch of people. Luffy's a good judge of character. He's very trusting, but he's a good judge of character. But he does give people a shot. If someone is like literally if there's an actual bad person that does horrible things and doesn't have any regrets towards them, he will punch them and deck them in the face if they did something like horrible to him. Like, I'm very, very well sure that Luffy really wants to take down Akainu or Sakazuki for what happened to Ace. But yeah, I think Percival has the right mindset. He's kind of naive, and I kind of like that. He's this very simple protagonist, very different from Meliodas from the Seven Deadly Sins, but it's all well and good. And I like that now, but now back to the chapter, I'm liking that the Elder and Sin are having a pretty nice conversation. The Elder states that Percival's kind of odd, and Insane basically literally just states the obvious, he's basically a hick. I like that choice of wording. It's kind of hilarious and kind of true. As the Elder says that it makes sense. That's a Knight of the Apocalypse. A boy prophesies to spread hope across the world. Which means that the four Knights of the Apocalypse prophecy is most likely something that was altered or misinterpreted by the Holy Knights of Camelot, and maybe the true prophecy is that the four Knights will bring about hope and peace throughout Britannia, perhaps even the world. So that's a really nice parallel to what the other Holy Knights are thinking and are doing. Sure, the prophecy might be that they'll have to strike down Arthur, but it's probably to end the age of chaos, in a sense, because now we're basically in an age of chaos and no gods. So this makes a whole lot of sense. Anyway, we jump towards the Crystal Grotto as everyone's looking at the entrance, and Sin just states that there is a creepy magic force in that area, and he bets it's Ardberg's. Everyone just goes inside, while Sin's trying to tell him not to go blundering in. It's bound to be, well, a trap, but he gets cut off. And we cut inside the cave with everyone just being taken aback by all the crystals and seeing how hard it is to get around. Donnie's calling out the Holy Knight, and I like how saying that you're very bold, Donnie. Here, I'll let you lead the way. As the story progresses, I'm continuously liking this whole cast even more. They really come off as just a group of friends now. They've really come close and they've been through a lot together, so I'm liking how all this is playing out. But then all of a sudden, Percival just states that Donnie is right. Because Percival flat out says that Ardberg feels like the weakest Holy Knight he's fought up to this point. And he's fought like titans with Pelgard and Irontide. They're basically like titans compared to Percival and the others. Tulsker was strong, but Percival managed to win by understanding his magic. And also catching him a bit off guard. Han states that he does seem like a military amateur compared to Ironside, and even Nazian states that it's what's concerning him the most. It's mainly his magic. He never used it at all during their fight back in town. So he states that it's not a destroyer or enchanter type of magic. And again, I want to state that I'm liking that Tabata is really diving deeper into the magic system of this world, because the 7 Deadly Sins didn't really tap too far into it. We just meant to accept it. There's magic, there's spells, there's demon powers, goddess powers, and stuff like that. We never get too in depth into like the different types of magic. So I'm liking how he's taking the Four Knights of the Apocalypse to add extra layers onto the power system of the 7 Deadly Sins. Whether we'll get back into the freaking power levels type thing, combat class stuff that we got in like the middle of the 7 Deadly Sins and just got irrelevant by the end. But just as Nazianz is voicing his concerns, Arterburg, hidden away somewhere in the maze, states that they hit the nail on the head. He's not a fighter. That's why he's going to use his magic to stop all of them right now. And I like how he's using this area to his advantage. He's not a combatant. He's hiding away in the crystals and basically using the echo to keep them from finding his true location. So that's a very tactical thing to do. I like it. That's very good. He stated that it takes him a while for his magic to take effect. So if he didn't lure them all into the maze to slow them down, he would have lost like that. Would have lost easily. So showing once again, he is the weakest out of all the Holy Knights we have seen. Everyone's trying to call him out, but Einstein just states that the kids are all talk, and it says to be careful. The cornered might be doing the cornering soon. So a nice way to drop the name of the chapter. Percival tries to tell him to show himself, but then all of a sudden his helmet covers his face, covers his eyes, stating that he can't see anything. Stating that his helmet just suddenly got bigger. The same thing is happening to Nazianz. On screams, and while we're wondering what's going on, we see that Percival is like a child, a baby, and his clothes are falling off. So their clothes aren't getting bigger; they're aging down, and we're seeing everybody in their how they look like as kids, on saying that they're being turned more and more into babies as time goes on, and that's kind of how the chapter ends. So a very interesting chapter, to say the least. So, in all honesty, not a bad chapter. We're adding some more stuff to the magic system of the 7 Deadly Sins that was addressed previously. We're seeing Sin talk about more about the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, maybe even some extra lore on the fact that the whole prophecy was misinterpreted or altered depending on who looked at the prophecy. And we also got confirmation that Arterburg is weak as hell. But his magic seemingly is a type of magic that affects other people, and seems to be a type of aging magic. But from what I can tell, it can only age people backwards. For all we know, he can age people forwards, but right now, he can only age them backwards. And by doing this, he basically rendered all of the kids helpless right now, because they're basically turning into toddlers. And at that point, they didn't know their magical powers, they didn't know how to use them. So if they follow that logic, and he ages back their bodies, Percival won't be able to put up much of a fight. Now, Percival, since a little kid, had trained with his grandfather, so he's obviously going to be a hell of a lot stronger than the rest. But all in all, I'm not entirely sure how they're going to win this. But this brings up something with Sin. Sin was outside the cave when they went in. Through this whole exchange inside the cavern, Sin is nowhere to be found. So, what'll happen if Arterburg uses his powers on Sin, but instead of just turning him into a child, it actually reverts him back to his original form? We've been getting breadcrumbs and hints that Sin is not a fox, or is someone else entirely. So what I think could happen is that this magic will turn Sin back to the point right before he changed his form, and in that instance he'll take out Arterburg using his superior battle experience. And in that state, we will end up figuring out Sin's true identity, which will be Lancelot. It has to be Lancelot at this point. It really needs to be Lancelot. Or, if for all we know, it could be Bond that was transformed by some kind of magic, for all we know. And the aging thing won't do much to him, as he is literally a lot older than the others. And by this point, he's probably like in his 50s, but still insanely strong. So, there's that. But all in all, another good chapter, setting up for what's going to happen next. I do think that Sin's probably going to be the one to save the day in the end, to take down Arterburg and reverse what's happening to the rest of the kids. But still not entirely sure what's going to happen next. I'm really enjoying this chapter, and I gotta say, I can't wait for next week. I've been covering this week to week, And I'm glad that we're getting like a little breather in a sense, but also a nice setup for what's going to happen next. And this is a new type of magic that we haven't seen in the 7 Deadly Sins before, so this will obviously get me excited. But overall, what did you guys think of this chapter? Did you like it? Did you hate it? What do you think of Ardberg's magical power? And what do you think is going to happen when Sin enters the fray? Is he actually going to save them? Is he going to reveal that he's Lancelot? Let me know in the comments down below with your thoughts and opinions and even theories for the future. And don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell for updates on future videos. It really does help. And with all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day. What's up guys, Chris here with another 4 Knights of the Apocalypse manga chapter review. And I have to say, this one, again, not the most exciting chapter of them all. Honestly, a bit below in terms of like excitement for the very majority of the chapter. But it does give us full-on confirmation of what happened to Ardberg in his past, as well as teasing us at the very end of the chapter with a character appearance, which I will get into once I get to it. But I have high hopes that the character I'm going to talk about will appear within the next few chapters, if not the next chapter. But yeah, this is still another pretty solid chapter, and I honestly gotta say, 4 Knights is still very good. Now, before I get into the video and do my whole spiel about liking and subscribing and checking out my Patreon and Ko-fi accounts, it has been stated that in the next issue of Weekly Shonen Magazine, you know, where 4 Knights is published, apparently there's supposed to be an announcement for the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse. What it's going to be, I'm not sure, but apparently Netflix Japan is also doing something on that day, so I have no idea what that could be. Could we possibly be getting a 4 Knights anime announcement already? I mean, the manga sales are doing pretty well for a brand new series, especially since it's like, I believe, 4 volumes out at the moment. But it's still very early for an anime announcement, and I don't know how much they could adapt, unless they decide to make it a core, like a part, like split it up by cores, like how other anime seasons are doing it. And unlike the 7 Deadly Sins or you know, My Hero Academia, where we have full 24, 25 episode seasons, and then we wait a year and a half or something until the next season comes out for there to be enough chapters. But if they do decide to essentially make 4 Knights of the Apocalypse an anime, the best thing they could do if they want to make it an anime very early on, help get with the 7 Deadly Sins hype and stuff like that, now that the anime is all finished all over the world, they could do it like a 12 or 13 episode seasons instead. Make it short, that way the manga will still be pretty far ahead, but we could consistently get 4 Knights of the Apocalypse content, considering that a lot of the arcs in 4 Knights of the Apocalypse so far, we're only at 38 chapters in, and they're relatively short. I've maxed like 10 chapters for every single one of these arcs, and we're seemingly getting to the end of the current arc. So, I don't know what they're going to do. For all we know, it could be a new game announcement, or an app announcement, or it could be something completely different. I'm not entirely sure, but we just have to wait and find out till next week. And when that time comes, I will talk about it in the next chapter review. Anyway, now let's get on to the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that notification bell for updates on future videos. It really does help. Really close to 900 subscribers. At the point of me recording, we're over 880. So another like 20 more subscribers, and we'll just make that 900 sub count right here at the start of November. And then the 1,000 subscriber mark is very close at hand. Also, check out the Patreon and Ko-fi accounts if you want to help support the channel more directly and help me get videos out a hell of a lot quicker than normal. Everything you can do helps, and viewing the videos and sharing them as well will help with the algorithm and give my content more of a broader audience, bringing more people in. And with all that said and done, let's get on with the video. Now, last chapter, we essentially got the idea of Ardberg just running away from everybody and luring them into a trap where he could use his main magic, which has aged down the main cast. And I stated last week that maybe this magic will age back Sin somehow and maybe reveal his true form before he had his fox form or something like that. I'm just going to say flat out that has not been confirmed yet. Sin has not appeared in this chapter. So I'm still not entirely sure how this is going to work, but we do get further explanations in this chapter. But yeah, the chapter basically ended with the main cast getting aged down into toddlers. Now let's get on to chapter 38, The Rescue. And we start out directly where we had before, essentially with everybody turning into babies. And everyone's panicking about what's going on, and Percival's literally just talking like a baby now. Arterburg shows up, and he literally describes his ability in that within 50 yards, he can turn anybody into their infant states. And he calls his magic Reverse. He then takes off his helmet, lays it on a crystal, and states that they can't fight anymore, and that the battle is his. Nazians and On still basically having, their more mature, their current mindset, their current intelligence at the age of 16, try to get Percival and Diane to run away, but they're literally just wailing, crying, and Percival just being Percival as a baby and exploring everything around them. I like the comedic aspects of this because they're just acting like babies. And Arterburg literally states that the effects vary per person, and that eventually Nazians and On will also soon revert to the mindsets of a child. And then they all start to cry. Arterburg turns to Percival and says now it's time to fulfill his work, and he even commends Percival, as Percival, even though as a baby, is still holding on, tapping and holding on to the dragon hilt. But also the fact that even though he's a baby, he has never cried once. So that's something interesting. But anyway, Arterburg goes to grab the sword, but Percival is also holding onto it without a care in the world. Arterburg, frustrated, is trying to shake him off. And Percival's just super strong as a baby too, as I suspected last week. So for all I know, Percival is just super strong all the time. Maybe that's one of the reasons why he's a destined knight of the apocalypse or something like that. And I like how Percival, as a baby, just thinks that Arterburg is playing with them. I mean, it makes sense with how Percival's grandfather is. Maybe they did stuff like this when he was a baby, when his grandfather found out how durable and how strong Percival was. Maybe he just did shit that he wouldn't do with a normal baby. Then Percival climbs up to him, and I love what happens next. It's a cliche that happens in a lot of shows when someone's aged backwards or when they deal with a baby. That Arterburg straight up grabs Percival, holds him up, and then Percival just pisses on Arterburg's face. Okay, I can't. This is just too hilarious. I like that Percival's really just annoying Arterburg to death as a baby. But then we kind of go back from this, and Arterburg literally tries to choke Percival now out of pure frustration. But On, as a baby, still wailing, is trying to convince him to stop. She can't speak, but she's crying and holding onto his cape. Arterburg literally is kind of hesitating a bit, putting Percival down on a rock as he's still holding onto the hilt. Arterburg tries to explain to On that he has to get rid of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, and he doesn't want anyone at their age to experience what he's had to go through, and asks her not to cry. As On continues to cry, Arterburg then flashes back to his life taking care of his child, his daughter, and he's literally a doting father. He's happy. He's trying to raise her right. And this only lasts one page, as we then go to the aftermath of a demon attack, as his village was burned down and destroyed, and he is holding essentially the burnt up basket that he was holding his child in, and then it crumbles in his arms. And that flashback affects Arterburg like with PTSD. He collapses on the ground, starts to cry, and On, as a baby, understanding it, trying to get him to trying to comfort and cheer him up, wipes away his tears. Arterburg states that On is very kind, but he has to do his job, and he has to pull it off. And Percival, as a baby, literally grabs a sword and points it at Arterburg because he thinks he's trying to hurt On. And I like how even as a baby, he's got some kind of sense of justice, or can tell when someone's doing something bad. But then Percival just falls on his face, since he's a literal toddler. He cannot walk. But Arterburg does confirm that he's not going to touch anyone else. His business is only with Percival. But then the elder shows up and says that he doesn't have it in him to kill the children. And he states that he understands why he decided to live in a place like this, in this grotto, this crystal grotto. For him to heal the scars of his heart, and that he's clinging to rumors and hopes. Because if you remember from the Seven Deadly Sins, remember the Necropolis arc where King was introduced, where they were brought to this place full of crystals and they were able to talk to the dead, where Bond and King were able to see and speak to Elaine again, to speak to her spirit. And the Elder basically just straight up says it like this, because the City of the Dead has these types of crystals, and these types of crystals are used for casting hexes, telling fortunes, and can even communicate with the other side. Stating that Ardberg, what he really wants to do while he's in this place, he wants to meet his daughter. He wants to meet his dead daughter again. And Ardberg is surprised at how he knows about it, and that but he tries to deny it, and states that he's only hiding in this grotto so he can carry out his mission of stealing the demons away. But then the Elder presents a deal. To undo the spell on the kids and release the demons, in exchange, he will let Ardberg meet his daughter. This shocks Ardberg, but he literally tries to deny it, and states he's probably just stating all this as, well, he's trying to bluff. It's just an obvious bluff. He can't help him meet the dead, and that he's lived there for 5 whole years. He's never seen his daughter's spirit once. And then he asks who the Elder is anyway. He's definitely not a demon, otherwise the Amber would have imprisoned him. But he isn't affected by his reverse spell at all, so he's not a human either. But then he deduces the full description of how his magic works. Ardberg's magic basically turns someone back a year for every minute. The kids were 16, so 16 minutes have passed and they turned into infants. So, he says in the likes of him, it will take over 3,000 minutes, a good 3 days, to age him to infancy. Ardberg is shocked to hear that the Elder is 3,000 years old, asking what he is, and he says he'll show him, dropping his cane, motioning his fingers, and then it ends in a panel with him with one hand on his hip and one on his head, with a classic blish or bling type or bing type sound effect as Ardberg is asking what he's trying to do as the chapter ends. And I need to say this, I really need to say this is obvious with this panel. The Elder is Gowther. The Elder is freaking Gowther. Now, how Gowther has this appearance, I don't know. But we have all of this evidence right now in this one single chapter. And even when the Elder was talking to Sin, we know that Gowther can knock people out and read their minds. So it's very likely that he used this magic to figure out what Ardberg was trying to do in the grotto, and also what he really wants. So he read his mind. And also helped figure out his magic very easily. But he also stated that he was around for 3,000 years. So, what other characters have been around for 3,000 years? Save for there's Merlin, obviously, Meliodas. Elizabeth was reincarnated, so she doesn't really count. And then there is Gowther. Gowther has been around for 3,000 years. And that's that obvious, and then the Elder just does the obvious pose like Gowther always does when he's like posing or something like that. It's Gowther. The Elder is definitely Gowther. It's possible he transferred his consciousness into a type of doll-like body, or something like this, a new doll body that he created, or maybe Merlin created it or something. We don't know, or maybe he used some kind of magic to change his appearance. It could be that what he's doing is trying to take care of some demons that have no will to fight and just want to live peacefully with humans, and Meliodas helped him with that. Now, a lot of people are also stating the possibility that the Elder might be a reincarnation of the Demon King, or a purified version of the Demon King, because of his appearance and how the patterns on his suit look similar to Demon King Meliodas. And yeah, that was a very likely scenario, and that did cross my mind. But the end of this chapter, the motioning of the fingers in that single pose, and also saying that he'll allow Ardberg to meet his daughter again, the Elder is definitely Gowther. And I'm gonna love it once he ends up realizing that he's in the presence of one of the 7 deadly sins. I'm just gonna love Artberg's reaction. He's gonna crumble in fear and run away probably, because there's no way he could take down Gowther. His magic is literally just to age everyone backwards by 1 year every minute, and Gowther's a doll, so that probably won't even affect him that much. For all we know, the longer he stays in there, Gowther will just revert back to his original form. So, either way, that's pretty cool too. You get to see Gowther. And in all honesty, I like Gowther. He wasn't my favorite of the 7 Deadly Sins, but as the series progressed, especially after the 10 Commandments were introduced, I ended up enjoying Gowther a lot. And when he got his emotions back in true personality, Gowther was up there. I really like Gowther. I love all the sins, really. But yeah, he's really like the weakest of the sins, maybe second weakest out of all of the sins by the end of the series. But he's still relatively powerful in comparison to most Holy Knights, especially by the end of the 7 Deadly Sins. So I just really hope that this ends up being Gowther, or maybe a puppet that Gowther is controlling, or something like that, because it's just very obvious. But yeah, that was chapter 38 of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse. A really decent chapter. Nothing too crazy happened except for the Ardberg flashback, the explanation of Ardberg's magic, and the reveal that this elder could very well, be Gowther. And in all honesty, I kind of thought that either Bon or Meliodas would be the first sins for us to meet. To meet the main cast of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse in this series. But Gowther was another guess of mine. And if I turn out to be right, I'll be happy either way, because I love Gowther. And I just can't wait to see what's going to happen next. Maybe Gowther will end up leaving the village to help guide the kids to Leonis with Sin. So I have no idea what's going on. But hey, we'll find out next week. And who knows, maybe we'll find out more about what this new Four Knights of the Apocalypse news is when the next chapter comes out. But with all that said and done, that's really it for this chapter review. Nothing too much to elaborate on. It was a relatively quick read. Not too much happened. I liked seeing the comedic moments of Percival acting like a super powerful baby, which makes sense for Percival, I guess. And I like that Ardberg is very humanized, not just a mindless, not just a heartless killer like Ironside or Tulsker, but he is an actual victim, and what he's doing is what he believes is right, and he's still scarred from the Holy War 16 years ago. But yeah, that's my thoughts and opinions on Chapter 38 of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse. What did you think? Do you think that this elder really is Gowther? I mean, the evidence surely presented that way. And what do you think is going to happen next? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below, as well as theories as to what could happen next. And don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. And with all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day. What's up guys, Chris here with another Four Knights of the Apocalypse manga chapter review. And this chapter right off the bat confirms something that I literally predicted last chapter. And I think we all basically predicted it with the very last panel of the chapter. So yeah, I mean, I was expecting this for one of the sins to show up, and it is confirmed in this chapter that Gowther did in fact show up and was the old man. So I'm going to get into that. I'm going to get into Ardberg's mini flashback with how he joined Arthur, Gowther, and Ardberg's conversation, and how the chapter ends off, and giving us some potential clues as to what could happen next. But with all that said and done, before we start the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really does help. We're really close to 900 subscribers, and once that's done, 1,000 subscribers is well within reach. So I really hope to reach that before the end of the year, hopefully before the end of November, if at all possible. And if you want to help support the channel more directly and help me get these videos out a lot sooner, please go check out my Ko-fi and my Patreon accounts. All that money will really help me get these videos out a hell of a lot quicker. It'll help my funding, and it helps support the channel like more directly. So if you can, go ahead and check out those, and subscribe to the channel and like the videos to show your support. And with all that said and done, let's get on with the video. So last chapter, we essentially got the full reveal of Ardberg's magic, and then the Elder showing up, basically more or less confirming the fact that he is in fact Gowther. Like, I did not expect him to be Gowther, but that last chapter made me think, holy shit, this is Gowther. And we also got a bit of Ardberg's flashback as to why he wants to take out the 4 knights and is doing everything Arthur says. It's because he wants to see his little girl, his baby girl that died during the demon attack 16 years ago. Which is something that I'm glad we got, as it helps humanize the Knights of Camelot and Arthur more, as they have more valid reasons and aren't super ruthless, just like Ironside and, let's say, Tulsker. But yeah, that basically sums up last chapter. We got to see the kids reacting to them becoming babies, and we also got confirmation that Percival is an incredibly strong monster on his own as an infant, which is kind of hilarious as well. But yeah, moving on to chapter 39, and I can't believe we're already on 39. So yeah, it's accurately titled "The Goat Sin." For one, I like this color spread with the main group going up the mountain. It's honestly a really nice color spread, in all honesty. But the next page is a full color page of Gowther doing his signature Shing pose, which is honestly kind of hilarious, and in a brand new outfit. And I have to admit, I don't mind it. I think it looks pretty nice for Gowther. But yeah, that's honestly kind of hilarious. Gowther just acting like Gowther now. I guess him being the elder was just an act he was playing for outsiders for the most part, not being like super Gowther in his personality. But now he just full on revealed it. Ardberg in shock, rubs his eyes, looks at we see the elder still acting like Gowther. He rubs his eyes again, and then Gowther is in his real form, literally staring right at Ardberg, as he states with confidence that he is part of the 7 deadly sins, the so-called sworn enemies of King Arthur. He is Gowther, the goat sin of lust. And, okay, I stated this very early on in my reviews of the series, expecting which sins would appear first in the series, like officially. The first one was Merlin. Okay, that's pretty cool. And everyone was thinking that, okay, maybe Ban will show up next, or maybe King in the Yan. But I always said it would probably be either Merlin or Gowther, because Merlin makes sense if Arthur's being the main villain of the series, and Merlin is basically Arthur's right hand and attendant, and basically advisor. Then it makes sense for maybe Gowther to come in next, because you don't want to bring in the big dogs super early in the series. So I predicted since the end of the 7 Deadly Sins had Gowther basically traveling Britannia, it would make sense for him to be the first one of the sins to meet Percival and the group. So I like this, and I like being right. Sometimes I like being right, sometimes I don't. But I like being right in this instance. Ardberg is shocked and stating that Gowther is one of the sins, but he's asking why he's going around like looking like an old man and running a demon village. As Gowther, all of a sudden he has the crystal holding the demon, states that the demons that he imprisoned detested violence and war, and they just wanted a peaceful life in Britannia over the demon realm. So he was just helping them find their place. He even stated that he was the one that put up that whole barrier and had that spell that to make him look like an old man to anyone within 10 miles of him. This way people like him can keep looking for ways to kill, because people like them keep looking for ways to kill them, and even Gowther said that it was quite annoying. And I like how nonchalant Gowther is being about this. Ardberg grabs Percival and An, trying to run away, as Gowther tells him not to. Ardberg just bolts, looking at Donnie and Nazian telling him to wait there. Now, really quick, Sin isn't in here. Perhaps Gowther, revealing his identity to Sin, told Sin to wait out there so he wouldn't be aged backwards like the rest. So, yeah, that's something really interesting. I really hope we get something like that, and I hope we get Sin's identity as being Lancelot to be fully revealed, because, come on. As much as I like that we got one of the Sins showing up and it makes sense for it to be Gowther, I want the reveal that Lancelot is Sin. So I want that to be within the next chapter or two. We cut to the outside the cave as Ardberg is trying to run away from a legendary monster like Gowther, and that he absolutely has no chance, as he has stated and confirmed that he is weak. Gowther slowly walks out of the cave, and we see that little bird thing which I believe is probably Gother's familiar. As, for all I know, this might be Gother's thoughts, stating that he found a huge magic presence out of nowhere, and just look what I found. Now this probably is not Gother. I don't know what this bird is, but it has been present since the very end of the Cant arc, and even in the Demon Village arc. Now, this is not Ardberg's bird, but perhaps it belongs to Merlin, or maybe someone else involved with the Knights of Camelot, as later on in the chapter, something very drastic happens that helps confirm this. Gother obviously wants to talk to Ardberg, but Ardberg's super scared and does not want to fight, is telling him not to come any closer, saying that he'll throw the kids into the canyon, saying that he's serious. Gother once again states, do not do it. And as we cut back in the very next page, we see Gother holding a child, Ardberg's child, stating, could you do that in front of your own daughter? And we get the girl's name is Connie. Ardberg drops on, and Percival goes straight up to Gother, as Gother confirms that, isn't this what you wanted? This is my gift to you. Ardberg asks the question, this is what I want you to say? Stating that he doesn't want to be made a fool of, and that he's every bit as evil, and that Gother's every bit as evil as everyone makes him out to be. He's just playing with people's hearts like a monster. As he grabs the kid, stating that his kid died long ago, and this is just a mirage. It's got to be fake. And the feeling of the warm hands on his face, the scent, Gother says that it is indeed a vision that he created from Ardberg's memories. The truth that lurks within his recollections, as Ardberg collapses to the ground, crying, holding his child. So Gother's magic is a lot stronger. Like, we all know he has mental manipulation magic, so it's very possible that he created something to fully create an illusion that feels so real based off of someone else's memories, to essentially give them what they truly want. So this is something really nice. I don't think Gother did this in the main series, like to actually someone physically feel like their past from their memories, but this is really cool, I have to admit. This is a really nice touch. Ardberg then states that he'll undo the spell once he's back in the grotto. If he does it right now, I'll probably kill him for seeing her, butt naked and stuff like that, as Gother just states that it's a wise decision. And Ardberg states that his magic woke him up, or just woke up, awakened in the shock of losing his kid during that demon attack 16 years ago. And it was useless magic since it came way too late to give his girl back. Gother tells him not to torture himself and that no one can bring back the dead. As we then get another part of Ardberg's flashback, as it says that just when he lost her, a man came along while he was wallowing in despair. It was Arthur, asking him if he wants to see his daughter again, alive just like he wants her. Ardberg, in that state, furious, in shock, in anger, and pure despair, is wondering, what is this guy talking about? And he's saying that he just wanted to yell and attack him just for bringing something like that up. But when he saw his eyes, he just couldn't attack them, as Arthur stated with pure confidence, and the look in his eyes, probably believes this to be so himself. If you do, then I need you to lend your powers. So Arthur probably did this in the wake of the demon attacks and everything, like right after the events of Assembly, since I do not know how long ago this was, because as if you can tell from the paneling, Arthur is missing his right arm. This is right after the Chaos arc, and I presume right after the Cursed by Light movie. So perhaps Arthur realized something with his Chaos powers. Maybe he can recreate someone or something from the dead, or maybe just recreate them physically or something like that. But yeah, for all we know, Arthur thinks that he can maybe bring back the dead. I mean, if that's so, that's incredibly terrifying if you can bring back the dead or create someone just like the person you knew. But back in the present, Gother's questioning Arthur Pendragon, if it was really Arthur Pendragon that was there. Ardberg once again stated that those words drove him to be a knight, and his aim was to banish the demons and make a world for humanity. But Gother opened his eyes, that you can't bring back the dead And even if he saw his daughter again, who knows if it would be the girl that he knew. And even if it's just a mirage, Gowther let him see his daughter that he knows and loves. And I like that in the background, Percival's really just climbing up, grabbing the sword, and just, crawling around on the edge of the cliff, swinging the sword. So that's honestly a really nice touch. But yeah, Ardberg thanks Gowther, and Gowther is acting like Gowther, being super flamboyant and everything. It's just hilarious seeing Gowther again. Quick tangent, I know there is a lot of Gowther hate from what I could tell when I was first getting into the Sins. But I think that died down as the series ended, because I think Gowther is a pretty good character, and I love all the Sins. I mean, Gowther is like, I think, my 5th favorite Sin right now. So, still, I like Gowther, and I'm glad that he's back. But yeah, as they're having this nice little moment, Gowther senses something, a shiver down his spine. Powerful magical energy is coming right towards them. And it's going to be there in 3.8 seconds. 3 and 8 seconds from now. 2 magical spears infused with magic are heading right towards them, and their target right now is Percival. And I like that it's a nice 2-page spread showing us the gravity of the situation. Gowther then leaps forward, grabs Percival, and manages to dodge the first spear, showing just how fast and nimble Gowther is, and he has not, gotten rusty over the last 16 or so years. Gowther is hanging on the edge of a cliff, but the lance did manage to miss him and Percival. But Gowther states that there's another one coming, and for some reason it's heading for An. Now Ardberg has a decision to make, and he makes a good call. He puts down the image of his girl, saying that he'll be right back, as he goes over, grabs An, and gets her out of the way of the spear, telling An to grow up and be a great woman. As the last page and panel of the chapter is Ardberg took the lance right through his chest, right through his torso, leaving nothing but a gaping hole. As the chapter ends. So yeah, another good chapter in Four Knights of the Apocalypse. We got one of the 7 deadly sins from the original series back in this new sequel series. But yeah, honestly, this chapter, the initial conflict ended pretty quickly. But I'm glad that the reveal of Gowther came around. Ardberg told us why he was working with Arthur and why he's doing what he's doing. We got to see Gowther's magic seemingly be even more powerful than it used to be. We even have more or less confirmation that the bird that's been following the group since Kant is not Gowther's. And I initially thought it was Gowther's upon first reading it, but if you look back at the paneling and how the words are phrased, the bird is talking about Gowther, which means that this is probably one of Arthur's other knights, and that's how those magic spears came hurtling towards Percival and An, and now Ardberg basically sacrificed his life to save An. Now, there are a few things I want to state about An being targeted. For one, An has not been confirmed to be a member of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, especially by Sin, and she doesn't fit any of the descriptions as far as I can tell. However, it's very possible that these could also be, how do I put this, interpreted differently. Now, based off of the descriptions, we're led to believe that that Tristan and Lancelot, along with Percival, are 3 of the 4 knights, and the 4th knight is still yet to be accounted for, if we take both the prophecy and the image back in chapter 5 into consideration. So it's very possible that maybe this spear was going towards An as a punishment for Ardberg for essentially giving in to the enemy. Now, do I think that this was Arthur? No, I don't think this is Arthur, at least not at the moment. It's highly, highly possible that Arthur is still a genuinely good guy at heart, and I don't think he would just straight up kill anybody that was once a part of his group. I don't think he will kill any of his knights. He is too kind of a person. But then again, he's got the whole mentality of making a world for humans and humans only. However, he probably would have done something more, serious involving the demon clan. But again, everything's just pure speculation. So I think we're going to get another Holy Knight of Camelot within the next chapter revealed. And then we'll have, with Ardberg dead, it's very possible that the spell will be undone, like, instantly. And the kids will be back to their original ages. And they'll have to fight off against another Holy Knight alongside Gowther. And hopefully Sin will unleash his full power as Lancelot, one of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse. I want that Lancelot reveal, and if this arc reveals not just, you know, it doesn't just give us Gowther's reveal, but also the reveal that Lancelot is in fact Sin, then this will be this will be like the second best arc in the series, maybe even the best arc in the series. So I think Sistana is honestly probably the best arc, just involving like with everything with Ironside. But yeah, what did you guys think of this chapter and Gowther's reveal and, you know, being brought back into the series? Leave everything down in the comments down below with your theories on what's going to happen next. How Gowther could potentially be someone that'll lead them to Britannia alongside Sin, if anything. I would like to see a reunion between Gowther and Meliodas, and the reveal of the demon village. It'd be hilarious if Meliodas had no idea that there was a village of peaceful demons on the board, like pretty much on the border between Leonis and Camelot territory. That would be hilarious. But I still think that maybe Meliodas was the one that asked Gowther to look after demons in that village. But yeah, this is all pure speculation, and I can't wait to find out what's going to happen next. So, as always, don't forget to leave your comments and thoughts down below, and like and subscribe to the channel. And before this all ends, I just want to state that it has been confirmed that we are going to be getting a 7 Deadly Sins movie again. A 2-part film focusing on Tristan as the protagonist, called 7 Deadly Sins, Grudge of Edinburgh. And it is a full 3D CGI movie. I'll probably have another video somewhere down the road this week about this reveal at some point. But yeah, I'm not going to make this video any longer by talking about it. So expect another video on the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse just being on this new 7 Deadly Sins movie revealed sometime later this week, hopefully. But with all that said and done, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have an awesome day. What's up, guys? Chris here with Chapter 40 of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse. Now, last chapter gave us the reveal that Gowther was in fact the Elder. And I gotta say, that was unexpected. And I also kind of called that Gowther would be the first real Sin that the main group would end up meeting on their way to Leonis. So I'm very happy for that, and I'm glad that Gowther has not changed as a character, and is the same person that I know, that we all know and love. And it also gave us a bit of a heart-wrenching backstory to Ardberg, how he gained his powers, how he joined King Arthur, as well as Gowther helping him turn over a new leaf at the very last second, as he gives his life to save On from certain death. Now this chapter will start off directly after us. But before I get into the actual video, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. We're inching closer and closer to 1,000 subscribers. We're already at 900 at the point of me recording, and I just cannot wait till we reach 1,000, because then I will be officially monetized, and hopefully that will help me get out even more videos for you guys to enjoy, because I have a lot of stuff planned for after 1,000 subscribers. So stay tuned for that. Also, I got my Patreon and Ko-fi accounts that have, if you want to help support the channel more directly, go to my Patreon and Ko-fi accounts, links in the description below. My social media accounts for my Instagram and Twitter, where I update pretty regularly, are also available. So if you want to like interact with me when I post, follow me on Instagram and Twitter. And with that out of the way, let's get right into the video. Chapter 40, Fearsome Attackers. We start off directly at the end of last chapter, with the aftermath of Ardberg's decision to save On, giving up his life. We get an overview of the cliff where he was and the passageway, as the bird flying on top that has been following our group since Cant begins talking, seemingly relaying the thoughts of the one controlling it, stating that Ardberg protected their friends and he got too old for this stuff, and he can't see Percival, and this person cannot see Percival or Gowther anywhere, and is wondering if they're alive or not, since there is too much dust in the air to tell. But then, the bird gets hit in the head, killed by an arrow, and it is revealed to be Sin, as he states that he would have just killed that thing flat out if he knew it wasn't Gother's friend if he knew that Gother wasn't the one controlling it. And that if Gother did not disable Ardberg's magic, he'd be hesitant to even enter the cave in the first place. And he says, "This time, at least, I owe you one, Gother." As Gother looks over at the image of Ardberg's little girl as it fades away from existence, fully showing that Ardberg has passed on. Gother uses his magic, grabs as he touches the spear that came and killed him, and is beginning to use his powers to identify who threw the sphere from the residual brainwaves that were left due to the magical power. As we get the reveal of that attacker's name, Tamda, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Chaos Knight that is serving King Arthur with several more companions nearby, about 9.2 miles. Gother puts Percival down, stating that he hasn't really gotten used to this new feeling. As Gother has a very pissed off look in his face and whips out his sacred treasure, the double bow harlot. And I like that he just went full on serious mode right off the bat. But we don't get to see him launch it. We cut to a little bit in the future, about a couple of minutes, as Anne remembers Ardberg's final words with a tear in her eyes as she wakes up. Next to Donnie, Percival, and Aziennes, who are naked, and she realizes that she is also naked. She screams. Percival's wondering what's wrong. She shouts, "Don't look at me." And in the very next panel, we see that she slapped Percival in the face. And I like how they're all just being so nonchalant about this, except for Anne. Straight up, oh man, I like how Donnie's basically teasing her that she actually likes seeing the guys naked, which is hilarious. Fits Donnie's character. It's a very funny interaction on all things considered. And I like how Percival is just so innocent. Like, all I did was see her boobs. I don't know what was the problem with that. Because if we remember in the early chapters, Percival has literally been with a girl that was his age who took a bath, and she just thought he was a little kid that didn't understand anything. I mean, Percival doesn't really understand most things anyway. Like Donnie said, he was a kid from the sticks. He doesn't really know anything. So he literally does not know why Anne is so mad at him, which I still find freaking hilarious. So, anyway, cutting back to the actual events of the chapter, Percival finds Ardberg's staff on the ground, and they're all wondering where he went, and then wondering if the fight is over, if Ardberg gave up since Percival's still safe. Percival brings up a good point about the goddess Amber and about the demons that were sealed inside, as Gother appears, stating that it's not a concern and mission completed, with Sin resting on his head, which is freaking hilarious, as Gother states that he will explain. And I like how Donnie in the distance is like she's hot, not knowing that Gother is technically a guy. Though, Gother is a doll, so I guess she could be either. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, because Gother's just been essentially referred to as a guy the entire Seven Deadly Sins. He just looks like a girl and dresses up like a girl, so... Yeah, I'm actually not sure anymore, unless Gother now identifies as a girl, fully identifies as a woman now. Which, if that is so, then I'm going to have to correct myself from this point onward when referring to Gother. But yeah, regardless, I still kind of find Donnie's reaction a bit hilarious. As everyone is wondering who he is, as Gother just does his signature pose while Sin's on his head. I still find Sin just resting up on Gother's head is just freaking hilarious. Alright, but anyway, we've cut way over in the distance, and we see a group of knights and what seems like an 8-legged horse. So I'm guessing it's some kind of chaos creature that Arthur created. As one of the knights stated that they handled the meddler Ardberg, but it doesn't count. And that the person that was that threw the spears is kind of being mocked for missing 2 shots, as they basically ambushed one of the Knights of the Apocalypse and a member of the Sins. And states that it's kind of bad now because they're aware of them and they'll be on their guard. As they reference Ironside, Tulsker, and Ardberg, stating that they all failed, because they saw their foes as mere children, and another one just saying that they were just old farts anyway, showing that they have no respect for their more senior knights, believing themselves to be, well, kind of hot shit. As one of the knights asks Tamda what his familiar was, he states that it was by the Dalflare peaks, just around the valley. As they end up confirming that they are on their way to Leonis and that they have to catch up. But just then, Gowther's double-bow harlot attack comes flying at them from the distance, as it is a flying magic bolt with an unknown type. As soon as it starts coming towards them, they all scatter, as the arrow curves and is heading straight for Tamda. Tamda begins to throw his own spear with his own magical attack, stating that he'll just fight back. He throws it, but it goes right through the arrow, as it then hits Tamda, much to everyone's surprise. But he's like, I don't know what happened. I'm just fine. What was that? One of the knights states that, well, it was just a bluff, and to give them so he's just going to give them another taste of his skill, homing. But the very last panel of that page is stated, "You made me mad," which refers to Gowther's pissed off look from earlier in the chapter. Gowther never really got mad, especially once he got his heart back in the Seven Deadly Sins. So now Gowther is fully enraged, as we see that the knight that was talking to Tamda was just hit right through with one of the spears, much to the shock of everyone else. Tamda stating that it's not him. He can't control himself. Something has taken over his body. As it's revealed to be Gowther's signature attack, Invasion Jack. As he basically launched a command to fully take control of his opponent's mind from a distance to follow a particular command. One of the knights says that it's a fearsome power, the will-bending skill of Gowther the Sin. Tamda states, "Do something, don't just stand there," as we see Tamda's head on one of the knight's sword, as the last panel of that particular page shows his body like literally cut up like cheese, like cut in 3 pieces. Well, 4 if you count his head, seemingly in an instant. This is going to show how strong these new knights are. As he tosses it over into the air, "Now do you see? Don't you dare underestimate them. We must dispatch them thoroughly and fast," as he tosses Tamda's head to the distance. Which, here's something that's interesting. When I was looking through the chapter, when we first introduced them, there are 5 whole knights. But we saw one of them getting hit right through with a spear. But at the end of the chapter, there is in fact 4 left. The one that was hit through by the spear is still alright, which means that what happened with Tamda was that he was hit with a powerful illusion, trapping him in an illusion where he's just killing off his opponents. This one knight realized this and potentially stopped Tamda from actually doing what he had begun to envision, thanks to Gowther, and just dispatched them quickly. So, it also shows how ruthless these knights are, as essentially they did kind of, well, view their companion as a hindrance, as they just assumed that he wouldn't be able to do anything in this current state, so we just straight up killed him. But yeah, that's a nice introduction to this new group of enemies that I assume we'll end up seeing before they reach Leonis. If that is the case, then I don't know how this is going to play out. But anyway, we move back to the main group as Percival is talking with Doltamache, the demon kid that he is in fact friends with. And I like how it's basically saying that they can keep the Keranosis antlers, and apparently it's useful for making medicine. So now he's just going to shave a bit of it off so he can use it to make some new medicines. And I like how Don's just straight up saying, like, if you're giving away gifts, just give me some more under ale. That stuff's delicious. And I like how Percival is just straight up communicating with the demons like almost nothing. I still want to know how he knows the demon tongue. I feel like that's going to play more into his backstory on why or how is the Night of the Apocalypse or something. And anyway, as this conversation is going on, An and Gowther are actually sitting next to each other and having a little conversation. An is confirming Gowther's story, that Ardberg was satisfied with the image of his daughter that Gowther made for him, and that he gave up on killing Percival and handed over the amber trapped with the demons and just left. Gowther said that he did, but An notices that he lied. There was one lie in everything that Gowther said, the one about Ardberg leaving. As An begins to tremble, Gowther has a somber look on his face as the rest of the group notices An as she begins to cry, and they go up to try and comfort her, with the final panels being Sin staring at her, and the last panel being the Cernunnos dog that Ardberg had been traveling with in the cavern, sitting next to where he left his helmet, ending the chapter. Now, Four Nights of the Apocalypse has been really good, and I'm liking how Nakuba Suzuki is planting seeds for these new enemies almost every single arc and building up how strong new Chaos Knights will end up being. And I like how Gowther is trying to be nice to An, not fully realizing the whole thing of her detecting lies, and him having to be 100% truthful. And I like how, despite An basically only knowing Ardberg for literally a day, she could tell that he was a genuinely good person till the end, and was just consumed with grief and anger from what happened to his child. And yeah, from last chapter, Ardberg was genuinely a nice guy, but he did what he thought he had to do because of what happened to his daughter 16 years ago, and with Arthur recruiting him. But this arc also shows that Gowther can still be a badass when things come to it, but it also shows just how intelligent and intuitive these new knights, this new group of knights that we are seeing, are, as they literally dispatched the guy that Gowther had used his invasion on, seemingly instantly right before killing any of his companions. Though the events of how these panels were laid out, it makes you think that he did kill one of his fellow knights, and then the other knight just killed him in retaliation, showing that they probably wouldn't be able to cut him out. But then it's revealed that all the other knights are still alive and well, so either this knight has some kind of ability to revive the dead, which is alluded to by Arthur in the last chapter in that flashback with Ardberg, or this was all just one big illusion that Gowther made, similar to what he did to Dreyfus back at the beginning of the Seven Deadly Sins. I'm leaning more towards the latter, because that makes a hell of a lot more sense. But yeah, I can't wait to see what all these new knights can do and how they're going to fight. Also, I want to know if Gowther is going to join the group, or if he's going to stay in that little village on the mountains to look after the demons. I feel like Gowther would still do that, but maybe he'll help guide them to Leonis to help ensure that they can survive these new Chaos Knights, as the four of them plus Sin might not be able to handle them all. Speaking of Sin, I'm going to end off this video with one more thing. We've all been speculating that Sin is Lancelot, and him using seemingly an arrow to kill that familiar of the Chaos Knight more or less confirms it, because Lancelot can use a lance. He's also been trained to use an arrow, from what I believe, if I can remember correctly, from the Lancelot's one-shot. And Bond never uses an arrow. There are people that think that Sin is actually Bond, and from the dialogue that he shared with Gowther, Sin might be Bond. Now, I'm fine with either one of them, but I would like it if Lancelot was in fact Sin, as like a type of homage to his father, as he does respect his father Bond a lot and wants to be just like his father. So I'm fine with either one, but it would just make more sense for Lancelot to be Sin due to how his mannerisms and stuff like that, and to show that we already had half of the four knights already in the main group. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about this current chapter of the Four Nights of the Apocalypse. It was good. I like that we got some closure for Ardberg. We got introduction to a new group of enemies. Some stuff happens with Gowther, showing how angry he can and how he's still as strong as he was in the Seven Deadly Sins, and that might be a bit stronger. And also planting the seeds for when Sin will actually reveal his identity, which I was wrong with this arc seemingly being the arc to reveal Sin's identity with. But hey, that's all I gotta say for this chapter. Really good. I'm still enjoying the 4 nights, and we're inching closer to its 1-year anniversary. In January, it's going to be a whole year since this series came out, and I believe in January is when the English release of Volume 1 is coming out. So you know damn well that I'm going to grab that and add it to my collection. But with all that said and done, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. And follow me on Instagram and Twitter if you want to interact with me a bit more. And yeah, with all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day.